Because you've got powerful legs. How did you get the physique? Was it gym or how did you get the physique?
I've always been...
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
An absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump! You know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 533rd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call we have Andy Patterson and Matty Di Gialinardo going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello everybody listening throughout the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. More on that in a moment. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice. Throughout the entire month of August, which we will be starting very soon, nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Just a quick one on those other platforms because we've had a few people getting in touch. We've had a few issues during the week with SoundCloud, RSS feeds, things that are above my pay grade. Trying to sort it out as best as we can amongst, going to work and all these other things. Might be a bit late this week, the podcast. Might be a bit of a disruption over the next week or so, but we're on it. So please be patient. Normal service will be resumed. On that note, massive thanks to Danny Young, hosted the Nutters Call-In last night. Helped me out this morning in many ways as well. When my tech let me down, he was there alongside with Andy Patterson to help bail me out. Anyway, enough of all that stuff. Enough of the particulars. Shout out to everybody in the chat there tonight. Only the 2 huge cards to discuss.
Man, Steve, you're really drawing this out. It's almost like you don't even want to fucking eat the crow.
Okay.
You're like, well, how long can we make this go for before I have to admit I was wrong?
No,
please. After
you ask my wife, I'm more than happy to admit I'm wrong on a daily basis. I have to get the particulars out, Matty. Otherwise, people will be shouting at me during the week. You know how it is. Right, so Inoue versus Fulton. Only joking, Matty. Only joking. We're going to start in one place. The place that you were there, the T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada, last night. Promoter Tom Brown. I'm only joking, Matty. Terence Crawford, 9th round knockout over Errol Spence, IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO titles were all on the line. The only criticism I have of Crawford, after that fight, Andy, is why didn't he finish Spence earlier? The absolute state of that guy. Before the fight, Sean Porter said, Spence is really good at fighting hurt. He's good at fighting when someone hurts him. Well, I'll tell you what, he needed to be last night because he looked like he just got out of that car crash. By about round 3, Wellington was pulling for Crawford to just put him out of his misery. Finish him already, because what was transpiring after 3 or 4 rounds was a one-sided massacre.
So Mr. Wellington did what I did the night that Frotch beat Booty when I was live in attendance last. Totally switched sides during that fight, like a total.
Just finish him, for
like a total fence jumper, eh? Oh, it was tremendous stuff. As you say, mate, that between the 3rd or the 4th round had finished. It was like his mugshot, and when he was lying in the hospital, that's how bad Spence looked. His eyes were swollen, looked like they were kind of half shut, bleeding from the nose. The lips began to swell up in that as well. It was a terrible beating. It's about the best I can say. I picked Crawford last week, but I didn't really expect. Well, I didn't expect Spence to win, sorry, but I didn't expect him to lose in the manner what he did. I just did not expect him to be dominated like that. I didn't expect it to be cagey early doors like what happened in the first round. I expected that from about the first 2 or 3 rounds. And obviously that just totally flipped when Crawford dropped him in round 2. He's got up, he's prideful man, isn't he? He's got to try and fight back. And then obviously by about the 4th, it looked like every jab that Crawford threw, or so every time Crawford landed a jab, it rocked Spence for everything. There was times even Spence was biting on feints. Crawford was just slipping too good with the feet. He was missing straight jabs. He was way to the side by the time Spence was getting his jab off. He was just too slow. You talk about Inoue being razor sharp there. So was Crawford, mate. He was that quick. His punches were that sharp. He could have shaved himself in them there last night. It was absolutely that good. One of the great performances that you'll see, and you'll have your detractors. You'll have people say about the weight cut and the car accident maybe finally catching up with him, but he took the fight. He knew what he was getting himself into. That's Spence, that is, and he agreed to the weight. He made the weight fair play to him, and look, you got to hang your hat to him actually, because he could have easily took a knee and just seen it out after that and just took the 10 count, but he didn't. He tried to fight back. Even after the 7th round when he got dropped twice, that counter right hook, that he threw off the ropes, Crawford, was absolutely sweet. In between, I think it was Spence throwing a straight left hand, possibly. He's caught him right through the middle with that shot. Fucking beautiful. And then obviously he's caught him again at the end of the round in that as well. Really, there was probably no need for an 8th round by that point, actually. And you can certainly say there was no need for a 9th round. You would hope Spence would probably call it a day after that, like last night, but I don't think he will. Again, obviously, he's got the rematch to think about. He's got 30 days to make a decision on that. He's kind of held hostage to the fact that Crawford can call the shots on the weight, but we'll need to wait and see. But I'd like to see him retire, because that's the type of beating there last night that can obviously just end whatever's left.
Look at the picture on the screen. He turned him into Maurice Hooker, Andy.
I mean, look at that. Pretty bad. I mean, I've seen a couple of other still pictures on that as well, with his face getting contorted, and you can see the face and during some of the slow motion replays. I don't know what Fiji's watched, but Showtime are doing that close up replay that they do. Some of those shots, but you can see it. They would snap the head back, and the blood coming out the nostrils or out the mouth, and yeah, it was just one of those performances. It was great to see, great to be in this era to actually see a performance like that, because we all felt 50-50. Loads were jumping on the fence. We don't know yet. We think maybe Spence, he's good fighting hurt. He'll come down the stretch. Crawford's too good, too slick, just too strong. There were a lot of variables going into the fight, and then he's just made it look like he's made a pound for pound ranked fighter by many people look like a complete novice, look a complete amateur. That's what he's made him look like there, and he isn't. That's just simple fact as well. He's not an amateur. He's not a poor fighter. Crawford just made him look that way, and some special fighters can do that. And I love them bamming up Charlo, who I kept an eye on during that. I've watched the fight 3 times, and I've watched Charlo each time during that fight, and he just sits there all stoic, barely moving, just watching what's unfolding in front of him, and that is an absolute ass kicking. Which, by the way, Spence called as the prophet that he is. A couple of weeks back when he says he got asked by Jim Gray, how do you see this fight turning out? So my one-sided ass kicking. Well, you got that right, son, because that's exactly what it was, an absolute one-sided ass kicking that nobody could have foreseen coming. Nobody. I mean, I think everybody's in shock actually as to how that's went. So we'll leave the conspiracy theories to other people at this point, like the LDBC, who are going off on one today. Anthony Crawler and all that as well, aye. But incredible performance. I mean, there's so much more I can add, but I know Matty was here live, so I'll let him add his thoughts in here.
Absolutely. Just before he does so, Slappy Gilmore's thrown in a tenner. He says, Terence the Invincible, absolutely. Right, Matty, I know you're desperate to get stuck in, so I'm going to have my say first of all, and then let you loose on me. I thought it was going to be a tough fight. We all know I thought Errol Spence was going to win. I got it badly wrong. Full props to Crawford. This is the win his record needed. He's the king of a generation, no doubt, absolutely, 2-time undisputed champion. Spence was reaching in. He couldn't handle the speed. He couldn't handle the accuracy. In my defense, I always said I only ever had one complaint about Terence Crawford. There was no doubt in his ability. his tenacity, skill set, his power. I always said there was a lack of names on his record, which stemmed from his hard-headedness, not joining the PBC. That's what I would have liked to have seen. He stayed at top rank for too long. I wanted to see him test those skills, those pound-for-pound skills against the very best names, not faded versions. Well, he went over to the PBC last night and took out the biggest name of them all, and there's nothing more for me to say.
Steve, it was incredible to be there last night. Having gone to the Avenation fight and experienced that Omaha fight atmosphere, I experienced it again in Las Vegas last night. They came out like mad for Terrence Crawford. Some people thought it was about a 50-50 split in the crowd. I'd say probably more 60-40, maybe a little more heavy towards Bud. The number of people you ran into through any random casino who were there from Omaha, just nuts. I mean, they love this guy, and he loves them back. And that's why we were able to get such an incredible atmosphere last night. And it started at the weigh-in. Bud was having fun with them. You could just, there was something about this week, Steve, that some people get shut out of the top things for various reasons, this, that, and the other. And the top rank PBC stuff aside, it's, the idea is, you got a big money maker, just going across the road and throwing him in with Terrence Crawford. I mean, that's a bad business plan, So he worked his way up the ladder with titles. I was going back through some numbers, Steve. The fight with Sean Porter only did like 135,000 pay-per-view buys. Victor Postol about 50,000. So it's been this incredibly slow grind to get to this point in time.
Why was that? Why do you think that? Why so low?
I'd like to say it's a combination of things, Steve. Maybe he was a little bit stubborn when it came to when he should have jumped across the street and things like that. But it also falls on the promoters too. It was not impossible for Bob or Todd at Top Rank to call up over to Al Heyman's office and say, hey, we're looking at a couple of potential fights that might be good for the fans. What do you think about these? And vice versa. This is what they choose. They try to monopolize, and actually I had an interesting thought about that, and I'd like to get into that later, but to the fight. So Crawford, in the ring entrance with Eminem, just fantastic, right? It was, and there was this incredible focused look on his face. The weigh-in, he was dancing, singing, having a good-ass time. He walked into this fight, and there was this incredible sense of focus about him. And you can just tell that this guy has tunnel vision when it's fight time. So the first bell rings, real smooth first round. Spence probably took it, right, Steve? Just not a whole lot of activity.
Yeah.
And then it starts heating up a little bit in the second round. And I'm in a very, very heavy Spence section of what is a pretty pro-Crawford crowd. And, Errol was doing pretty good in that round, pushing him back at times. And then Bud landed that left-right combo there and just sent him down. And when Errol was on his ass, there was a look on his face that I have never seen before. And the fight was over then. Even though he came back and he had a decent third round, I think maybe it was the fifth he might have said he could have had an argument with, even though some of the judges only gave him one round in the fight. But he just ran into this focused wrecking machine who has every shot in the book. His defense is tight. He'll throw with you. He will push you back. He will counter you. The full package. And round after round, as we're getting towards that seventh round, he just starts landing heavier and heavier. Everybody, Dr. FMG really thought that the story of this fight, might have been Spence's pressure and jab. Nah, the story of the fight was Bud's jab probably busting him up.
Dr. FMG, so stupid, isn't he, thinking that?
I think he's a very, very wise man, but going against Bud is very cuck-like. Yeah, so I think FMG in this situation might stand for fuck my girlfriend. Love you, Doc. Love you, Doc. So the 7th round comes, and Crawford catches him with that uppercut up against the ropes, and the Spence crowd, they're cheering because, Spence is having some decent, doing some decent work to the body, kind of moving him around a bit. Then Bud just lands that uppercut. And it was basically, it was all downhill from there. I think Bud kind of stepped off the gas in the 8th. Maybe after that second knockdown, Spence wasn't too hurt, but I mean, Doc could have probably pulled the plug at that point in time. In my very pro Spence area over there, man, they were loud, Steve, and they were saying, as he's working the body, pushing Bud back, at times they're yelling, saying, yeah, got to do that for 6 more rounds. 6 more rounds. Can you take it? All sorts of shit like that. And then Bud drops him for the second time at the end of the 7th round. In my very pro Spence section of the crowd, I yell out, "Man down!" Man down! this big black gal behind me just starts busting out around like, "You like that one?" She's like, "Oh yeah, baby, that was good." So it was it was really good, and you gotta love the Spence people there behind him.
I would have loved it if you got pimp slapped like that. That'd been fucking.
Oh,
brilliant.
I pissed off a couple people for sure, but they couldn't say shit, man. They were yelling their shit too. 8th round, I think Bud just kind of worked him over, took a little bit of a break to get his gas together, and then 9th round just put him on him. Good stoppage by Harvey Doc, who I was fortunate enough to meet after the fight as well. Good man. I like Harvey. But it was incredible to see that happen. Bud's emotions when he was in that post-fight interview, I hope you guys understand where that was coming from, that he had felt dismissed and held back from opportunity for so long. And here he was, and he showed up almost like no one has ever showed up before on this kind of stage, and completely dominated a pound-for-pound fighter. Absolutely dominated him. And I feel for Spence. It could be a rough road back for him. I don't know what's next. I don't have much interest in a rematch. It could be at a higher weight. Maybe they'd even catch weighted at 150 or something. But I just don't see that. Charlo's got to go fight Canelo apparently. Something that wandered into my mind, Steve, is I'd like to potentially see Crawford take on Tim Tszyu. I think that's Tim's a big boy, I mean, he might not be, nearly as experienced, but that's another tall test, going up another division. And who knows, they might make Tszyu some sort of full champion by then with Charlo out fucking off at 168, right?
Yeah, they should do.
And just leave the Spence fight behind. And if Errol can get something together, maybe they can rematch again down the road. But I see very little purpose in it. It was just incredible. And I had a chance to talk to some boxing folks, some writers, some judges, et cetera, after the fight, in a really enjoyable setting. And I asked them, because this is something that occurred to me during the fight. I brought it to the Nutters' attention too. And I said, do you believe that Terrence Crawford is the most complete fighter since Marvin Hagler? And it kind of took them back. But not a single one of them could disagree. And they even embellished on the point that I made there, seeing it in person. He is a tremendous fighter. There's some sort of intangible in him, something that drives him, that makes everything he does exponentially better. He's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, but God damn it, he just wants it more than you do at the end of the day. And it's going to take a very, very special fighter to take out Bud Crawford. And if he was to retire today, I would have no problems with it. He's 35 years old. He just got a great paycheck. Hey, right off into the sunset. He'd be a top 50 all-time great fighter at this point in time. No argument. No argument. He's one of the best. And I am so proud to have been there to see this moment, and enjoy it with a good friend and Donnie. It was tremendous. And I really hope that people give Bud his props right now, because I hate to break it to you guys, but Bud Crawford is better than Floyd Mayweather ever was.
Oh, you had to spoil it at the end there, didn't they? You're getting as bad as Seb, Matty. I'm going to have to put a little soundtrack to the back now, but you did make a lot of good points there.
He has
Floyd
fought
would have
his...
been fuming last night, actually, with that result.
Bud has fought his entire career, other than sometimes at lightweight when I think he was struggling a bit to make the weight, but specifically 140 and 147. He fights the way Floyd fought at 130 and 135, and I thought Pretty Boy was the best version of Floyd. And I just think Bud has that, and he can take it up another weight class potentially too. This is one of the most incredible fucking fighters of the last 50 years. He's unbelievable. Fuck off.
Feeding the ducks, Mikey was asking for, right? Matty makes a compelling case. We had a question from Take Ames coming earlier along those kind of lines, so I will throw it out to the panel. First of all, let's throw this out to the panel. Ricky Graville has thrown in $4.99. MTK Enforcer Richard Graville has thrown in $4.99. Rapping Rob Kelly's on the call with us. Let's go to him right now. We've talked about the fight, Rob.
Enemy of Cook and Cassius, Ricky Graville.
Bury the week territory. Don't worry, Rob. We're going there later. Don't worry about that. Matty mentioned the rematch. There should be no rematch. Spence needs to retire. We don't need to see that again. That will be a disingenuous fooling of the public. Another chance to cash out. Spence shouldn't be in the ring again, in my opinion, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm feeling particularly vindicated now. I know I didn't get much chance to get into it last week because it was fucking steaming and I turned up late to the pod, so I never got a chance to give my full breakdown. But I think it was like something like Spence is a good fighter and Bud Crawford's a special fighter who's going to beat him up and stop him.
2 minutes, 36 seconds you spoke for about that, yeah. Rob. I couldn't believe it when I was editing it afterwards. Sorry.
But the point stood. I always knew, and like people always talk about like resumes these days. It's resume this, resume that. Like we know what the crack was with Bud Crawford, like, right? And I just want to say, like, the amount of shit that guy's had to overcome to get to the top of the mountain is fucking unbelievable. He's gone away to Scotland to win his world title. First of all, beat Ricky Burns, right? Nobody never really beat Ricky Burns on this side of the pond. Beat Ricky Burns, then goes up, unifies at 40. Everyone's like, can he go? But everyone had high hopes for him when he was knocking out in Dongo and giving him massive credit. Then he moved up to 47. He signed with he renewed his contract with Top Rank, and people start viewing him as a race trader because he signed with fucking Bob Arum instead of Al Heyman. And because of that, you had this stream of fucking people, Americans who should be by right supporting Bud Crawford, out against him, and pro Charlo, pro Spence. So he's had people fucking nitpicking his career. Then obviously when he signs with Arum, PBC tried to freeze him out. They tried to freeze him out and wait on him and wait him out and make him go old. They kept the title in between Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. Up these guys for fucking Spence. Talk about resumes and fucking hand-fake guys or whatever, hand-pick guys. Spence was fucking, they did the old WBO treatment on those world titles at the PBC, and they kept it in-house. They froze Bud out. They didn't have him on the graphics. The writers fucking constantly overlooked him as pound for pound number one in the sport for the likes of fucking Lomachenko and Canelo and all these guys, and he's never fucking thought of. But the eye test, I fucking knew as soon as he got out of Spence, he was going to dog him. And there was over the years, when it was, we're thinking it's getting past the sell-by date, or maybe I might have had thoughts that Spence was too big. But in the recent history, when was the last time you seen Bud Crawford lose a round? He might have lost round one last night while he was adjusting, and maybe Porter took a round off him.
I think they're in hindsight as well, Rob, rather than Spence pushing him back. I think that we can say that he was doing what he wanted. He stepped back in those rounds
he's probably taking a look at him. He's probably taking a look at him. But when the talk, there's so much fucking cliche and boxer size Ben talk now in the wake of all this, and everybody's a fucking boxing tape expert and a footage expert, and you're going to see these YouTube breakdowns and all. But just quickly, the IQ of the guy to be going back to the ropes and throw that shot so precisely, so short, turn his hands over at just the right time and catch Spence. Spence didn't know what hit him in the second round. He's looking back up at the can.
He punched away Spence at the time, didn't he? He punched away Spence.
Yeah, you're right. Double hooks. He's hitting him with double hooks.
And the jab alone, he could easily have won that fight on the jab, the way he was landing it as well. I mean, it wasn't just a jab. It was sharp. It was thudding. literally causing
broke him up.
Spence severe problems. And he even staggered Spence, I'm sure, with a jab at one point, possibly the seventh, I think.
The second round, he dropped him with the jab. That was, I mean, it was the left is what did the damage, really, but the
right
jab
hand
followed him down.
Right-handed, turned the right-handed to him.
Yeah, but some of those shots were like short, crisp. You know, they weren't traveling anymore like 8 to 10 inches. Some of those punches.
There's the other thing about how special that performance is. He's a naturally orthodox fighter, right? He just took on the fucking best southpaw welterweight since Manny Pacquiao and dominated him at southpaw. But he's not right. He's as good, and he's the best switch hitter since Hagler. He's probably better switch hitter than Hagler. Like I can't speak highly enough about Bud Crawford and the things he's capable of, and the adjustments that he makes on the fly in the fight. It's going to take a very, very special fighter to beat him. I don't think Boots Ennis is good. Keith Thurman's opening his mouth. He should shut the fuck up and go back up to Kathmandu, not to disrespect the fighter or whatever, but he has fucking no chance of beating Bud Crawford. He beat the living. That'll be worse. That'll be a worse walk down.
I ran into one time when I was out walking. Donnie and I got a picture with him.
Yeah, I saw it on both your feeds. It was like 2-time Thurman. But my old nickname. I was, but I did have a kind of premonition about. I met up with Don McNamara, a friend of the pod this week. He was popping through Wexford. Great guy, by the way. He has the fucking voice of an 85-year-old Kevin McAleary. He's actually a cherub-faced, baby-faced young lad. Really fucking surprised me when I met him. He looked totally different than he sounded, but really nice kid. And we were having a chat, and I was just saying to him like about the facial damage to Spence. I saw him talk on Twitter before to somebody, back to one of his supporters, about. Like, I can't keep doing these camps. Like, you don't know what the fucking toll this is taking. And then there was that thing with Ugas where he turned away in the fight and he says he felt like the dental implants were after falling out. I was like, this guy's not going to take punches off Bud Crawford all night to the face. You're fucking joking me. He's going to beat him up and stop him. So, I'm a big fan of Spence too, by the way. Remember 6 years ago, I was calling Spence to beat Brook. Always liked him. But just the eye test on the two of them, I think Crawford just has more. And more than anyone at 54 as well. Fuck it. If he's not going to retire now, let him go up to 54 and have Charlo. By the way, what fighter? And I hate this fucking recency thing when we go Floyd, but we can go eye test as well. Is there any, at 47, is there any opponent that Floyd beat at 47 that Bud Crawford wouldn't have beat and probably stopped? Have to have a think about it. Like, you know what I mean?
He would have beat Pacquiao.
There's Canelo
he
and
would have absolutely beat
Cotto.
Pacquiao.
Yeah, so I think like let Bud Crawford stand alone and stop, let him have his moment and stop comparing him to fucking people that gone by. Enjoy him while he's here. It's taken him this long to get here, 35. A lot of people, he's probably past his prime as it is and still went and done that. And when was the last time two elite guys, like elite guys, met like that and the other one fucking dominated one like that, where Spence literally didn't have a moment in that fight. I think he came back in the third round. He might have caught him with a wide winging kind of left hand. But other than that, he didn't win a second of the fight. He got the living shit beaten out of him. And the fight probably could have stopped or pulled out 2 rounds earlier. Viva Bud Crawford, fucking, he had him and his mom and all that were dancing. And just some certain shit in the build-up was amazing. Like Derek James saying, don't bring your dancing shoes tonight, mama. Like, I don't know why people try to trash talk Crawford, the guy in the fucking crowd who was saying he was going to get broken and all. Like, it's like you're adding fuel to the fire. And he's entertaining Bud. Like, he's fucking got the second longest fucking knockout streak in boxing behind Baturbiev. Like, and he's not even known as a one-punch knockout artist. That'll tell you how fucking good he is, because people jack it or he breaks him down. Like, brilliant fighter. Delighted that he got his moment. Delighted that the fight happened. Delighted that it delivered. And I really thought that was a nice moment at the two of them at the weigh-in as well, where when Spence said to him, "Thank you for making this fight," and they shook hands. That's what it's all about. Like,
they were classy, man. I dug that. I thought, they had their moments,
and I like
Spence
getting
too.
heated.
He's
Not making excuses. God. Spence making no excuses. He's giving them all the credit. People are suggesting now, these fucking bangers that don't know shit about boxing, but have Twitter accounts that are out now saying, "Oh, Bud had loaded gloves," or he wrapped his own hands, watched the wraps, or Spence was weight trained, or Bud's on the juice. Fuck all that shit. Spence said, "I'm a grown man. I made the weight. All credit to the champion." So I think we should say that too, but
you can't get hit by someone who is that accurate.
And Bud.
You can't get hit by someone who is that accurate.
In that level of a fight, like for an undisputed guy, he's fighting a guy with holds fucking 3 belts, and he's landing like 60% of his power shots. He's hitting him whenever he fucking wanted.
Those stats were nuts. nuts. I couldn't tell from up there just how many he was landed, but he was just constantly moving him. And the best thing about him, Rob, that I love is that Bud just uses punches to get you into a position for another punch. He always has something in mind. Like you're talking chess players, how many moves ahead are you? 2, 3 moves ahead of the opponent. Bud's 4 or 5 moves ahead of the opponent. I'm going to throw this and get you into this. Then you're going to do this, and I'm going to pop you again, move you back straight up, and then down to the bottom. I mean, and it's all just lightning quick, embedded in him. I mean, this guy eats, sleeps, drinks boxing. He is the ultimate fucking fighter of his lifetime.
There was a stat. There was a stat. I don't know what round it was. Like, we they put the stock on them, but it's an interesting one as well. At the same time, if it's true, Bud at one point in the fight had landed 58% of his power shots. At the same time, Spence had only landed 58 punches in total.
It was like 4th round or something.
Yeah, it was. That's a frightening stat if that's true.
Yeah, it's different, and like Dom, he's different because I call him Dom McNamara. It was actually Dom Henry, so he's different, different Dom. Big bad Dom. The Dominator. Anyway.
I haven't heard, the dominated, exactly, Dominatrix. I haven't heard from Dom McNamara in a while. Hopefully he's okay if he's listening.
It's funny, like, because I met him in a pub in Wexford, like in the middle of the fucking daytime, like, right, and I was trying to fucking run around and might get a little one mind and I'll get down to it was pissing rain. I told him meet me in a fucking place, Costa, it was closed, and then he had to go meet me in a bar and all. So I'm in anyway, and he's chatting away, and like there's only two other people in the bar, and I goes to him, geez, you look a lot different than you sound. And then I thought, that sounds sketchy. Like, it sounds like we're on a fucking Tinder date. And I was like, we're not on a Tinder date, by the way. You just want to talk boxing. That's fucking, that's not what this is. Everybody settle down.
Oh, dear, yes. It's taken a long time for him to get here. Enjoy him while he's here. Rob Kelly talking about Crawford. But we could be talking about Rob Kelly. He's here at 8:30 on a Sunday evening. We're glad to have him as well.
That's how you know the fight is good if I'm here this early. Like.
He's doing his best. We had a super chat from Ted come in. Before we get to that, I want to just go through the training situation. MB says Spence kept on reaching in and getting countered. His feet were all over. Timing was off. Poor preparation. A few people have been going in on Derek James. Des, first of all, not really going in on him so much, but he said this earlier on. He said, I was very disappointed in Derek James. I didn't like his out-of-character insults with Bomac and getting caught up with Crawford fans fight week. On the night, I thought from the second round, he failed to make any adjustments when it was clear to all in the chat and the commentary team on PBC that Errol isn't strong enough on the inside and the Bud jab was taking his legs away. Something I noticed in the end of round 8, when Errol was in deep water, a ring official was on the apron and started talking to someone outside, and James got completely distracted, stopped delivering instructions to his fighter and took a moment off. It was caught on the PBC broadcast. I'm genuinely not kicking a man when he's down, but I wasn't impressed with AJ against Franklin. Thought Martin was flat a few weeks back, and last night was the most one-dimensional performance without changes or adjustments in a fight that had established a pattern very early. You could argue this was the first real fight Errol has found himself in. Was James good enough on the night? By the way, none of this changes the result, but at this level, details are crucial, and you expect everyone to be firing on all cylinders. Excellent comment from Dares, who boxed himself back in the day. He knows his shit, Andy. Also, Antonio Tarver, very quickly, let me just play this, has also had his say. 40-second clip that's been doing the rounds. Let me play it for everybody at home. Shout out to, I think it was Seconds Out or something. We'll probably get a copyright strike for this, actually. I'll play it anyway and we'll see what happens.
They crowning these guys trainers of the year and all this stuff, but we don't. What are we? Come on, bruh. This man wasn't prepared for no Terrence Bud Crawford tonight, and the trainer got to take some flack for that. It's his responsibility too to have his fighter ready. Man ain't had nothing about no defense, no head movement, no feints. Didn't have his hands up, feet all everywhere, bruh. Where's the lessons? You know? And so I've been out here campaigning as a trainer, and I predicted the whole fight. Go look at Tarver's tape, bro. I know boxing, and they won't let me help these guys.
Anthony Josh was in safe hands, but it sounds it.
What's the next one? Frank Martin was mentioned just before I forget. Sorry, Matty. He said a similar thing, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago? And do you remember Harriet Union in the post-fight?
Yeah.
Just felt off. I just felt like my timing wasn't there. Could be a coincidence, but it's the same gym.
Steve, I said exactly, I asked you guys exactly last week, do you think that Derek James has too much going on to properly give attention to this fight? I asked specifically.
That could be.
But James would shoot. Surely they've been knowing it's coming for years, though. It's not.
Or maybe just took the eye off the ball a wee bit.
Yes,
maybe get a bit drunk on success a wee bit, maybe.
Spence is his flagship fighter and involved in the fucking biggest fight in the sport. Like, you think they'd be prepared. I think a lot of the time the guy who just wins Trainer of the Year falls apart quickly in their next few fights. It happened to fucking Robert Garcia, Joe Gallagher, you name it. Like, I don't put too much stock into that Trainer of the Year thing. I think fellas can go on a hot streak and it gets, and sometimes they have guys that are fucking, you know, as what you call it, John Fury, who everyone knows I'm a huge fan of. So it's easy to train a racehorse, isn't it? Sometimes, like, so he had a few racehorses in that stable. Like, it's not that difficult, but that's not diminishing the man in any way. I just think, what the fuck was he going to tell Spence to do last night? That would have adjusted to.
He was trying to tell him
the
right things. He kept saying, he seemed exasperated. Like, what are you doing? You're going back in straight lines. You're dipping. Why are you not stepping round him? Like, he couldn't understand what was going on. It was like, Spence, sorry, Matty.
Well, Crawford creates some of that himself. And I mean, Rob, what I think about, and I think you and I are very much on the same frame of mind when it comes to Crawford, is, all right, so you're training your fighter to fight Bud Crawford. Which Bud Crawford? Southpaw Crawford? Orthodox Crawford? Coming forward Crawford? Counterpunching Crawford? His headshots? His body shots? He's literally, since he put him down with a jab now, has dropped fighters with every punch in the book. What are you preparing for? How do you prepare to face greatness?
Well, Andy, what do you think?
You're asking me how to handle greatness.
I get what Matty's saying. It's like putting Bud onto a completely like esoteric level, but surely they must have, he must have sparred forward people, sparred southpaws. He must have had some semblance of an idea. He was doing amateurish things, and they look like Lamont Peterson 2.0.
But Bud picks when he does it all. He doesn't let you dictate it. He picks when he fights and what style he wants to fight when he wants to do it. He dictates the fucking terms.
True.
I think that it was obvious he was going to come out southpaw though. They should have at least been prepared for that. That was one of the most fucking obvious things.
There's an element of Spence's stupidity or lack of preparation or whatever it was as well in there, Andy. That's where we're trying to find where one starts and the other one begins.
Well, I take the point as well. I mean, what is he now at this point, Spence? I mean, he's all the fighters he's ever going to be, isn't he? James, his own stable. Maybe it was more about the camp, about trying to make the weight as well. Even though he's not using that as a main excuse. But I was just wondering if you could pull up Dez's general points again. I could maybe go through some of it or whatever on that, because I agreed with quite a lot of what he was saying there.
He does have a sharp boxing mind. He really does.
Oh, Des knows his shit, man. We get this on a daily basis in the Boxing Nutters chat. I'll be embarrassing him now, but he's due the praise.
Yeah, so just when I read the bit about me stating about the part of round 8 and the ring official and that took my mind back to the point that the doctor got in the ring very early in that fight. It was about the 5th round, I think it was. I was just wondering what.
Yeah, it was strange. Yeah. It was like I thought, whoa, what's going on here? This is a bit early, but I mean, and James showed no inclinations to stop the fight.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't think even the ref, because it looked like the doctor was standing. He wasn't even in the corner as such. He was standing kind of a bit over the side of the ring.
If they called him in to get a bit of a respite, Andy, to extend the end of the round, before the next round started, maybe.
Possibly, but you just wonder what's maybe been said pre-fight or what's he seen during the fight that's maybe got him up there that early. Maybe it's because, I mean, even after that first knockdown, when you see him get up, if he's actually got his back to you at the camera. His legs are definitely wobbly. And as you mentioned, as Dave mentioned there, was it BBC that Errol wasn't strong enough on the inside and the Bud's jab was taking his legs away. Yeah, absolutely. But it was like every solid punch that Crawford landed seemed to shake Spence right down to the ground. He was either off balance, he was getting his head snapped back, he just didn't know how. His initial response to getting hit, as I mentioned last week, was the pride and the ego, was to go right back at it, but he wasn't doubling up the jab, and that's what Crawford was doing. Crawford was finding a place for the jab constantly, head and body. He was tightening up his shots. He was punching with Spence. That's how he got that. I mean, as Rob mentioned it as well, to step off Spence like that, drag him to the ropes as such, and counter him, using his own momentum against him, and then countering him during at the same time as that guy's punching. It's just impossible as to how great and the speed of timing that is. It's just incredible. I really don't know what you could tell Spence about the 5th and 6th round, because as I say, he's running about the 7th. Well, after the 7th especially, you really are questioning, does he need to go out for the 8th and 9th?
Did Derek James realise that? Did he realise Spence was getting the shit beaten out of him and he could not stand up straight? Do you think he knew?
They'd be seeing it. Everybody else was seeing it. Everybody else has seen it. But I could not believe it when he got knocked down the first time. But I was a wee bit more stunned when I actually seen the stadium when he got up. And as I mentioned as well, I mean, his face, the contortion in his face after leaving the fourth round, the eyes looked like they were trying to shut up, but his nose was bleeding, puffiness to about the lips. The lips was beginning to go that red way they do once they start getting punched. He had no answers, and I don't really know what else you can do bar saying, look, run it again at a higher weight, and if he loses again, then you just know that Crawford is the far superior man, come hell or high water and health and weights, that type of thing. Because some people will hang on to it that the fact is it was at 147 and they cram himself down and all that type of stuff. But that detracts for Crawford's greatness and that as well. But I don't see how it can change at 154. I don't see any fighter at 54 who might even do better. I don't see Zoo doing any better. I don't see Charlo doing any better.
I'll tell you, guys,
the sheer strength of the guy. I mean, I think even at one time when they did come to a clinch, Crawford was never phased. He never looked out of breath. Never looked stressed. That was the thing. Spence was stressed about everything he was doing. Fucking Crawford looked like
finished the fight without a scratch on his face as well, by the way.
He was fighting my cigar in his mouth. All I had to do was just pour me a brandy and I'll get it between rounds, mate. That's all I got to do. Just hold my spit bucket for me. I'll be back in 3 minutes. It was just something else. I really don't know what you could have told Spence to do differently, rather than double up the jab, which is the key fundamental, man. And that's what we'll talk about Inoue in a little bit, but Crawford and Inoue they could have won that fight easily on their jabs alone. And that's what Spence would need to have worked upon was the fact that his right hand, which his jab hand, was too low. It was getting countered over the top of him. When he stepped in with the left hand, he was getting caught in the middle of that as well. His timing was off. His feet was awful. The amount of times he was getting spun at the side and he was jabbing, trying to catch Crawford as he moved. I posted up a still of it actually on Twitter there. Actually, it was amazing how the speed, because that was one of the one times that Spence threw a double jab, never landed. I think Crawford parried one, and then the second one was hitting fucking Rose Ed, because by that time Crawford had spun off to the side. It was just everything about it, just speed, timing, foot movement. Even the times he was taking a couple of punches and that, he wasn't phased. Just was not phased.
The fact that he was out of the ring mid-knockdown calling out Charlo tells you a lot about his personality. He's such a mean and spiteful character. Like, they might have shook hands at the weigh-in and all that. Like, and you're trying not to get into these fucking reading into their behavior and all that. Because I'm looking at it on fucking YouTube. I'm in Vegas to fucking get a look on these guys. Like, but people were making a lot of Spence turning away first, and then the clips came out, and he always does that. And he was like, "I'm not trying to look into N-word's eyes for an hour," which is fucking hilarious. I thought, like, but even the fact that they said that Spence stuck around with the reporters for like an hour after the weigh-in. Crawford didn't speak to one soul. Crawford's that you could see he was starting to get, even though he was trying to keep a lid on things between the families, like, he still had that remark when he was like, "You're showing out like a female." To me, that was like, he's ready to fuck it. Like, he is ready to go. He's in a bad move from making weight. And this fella's just said the wrong thing to him at the wrong time, and he's just about to turn. Spence was on Twitter like the day before, like, up until a couple of hours before, it wasn't a word out of Crawford. Like, his sister was doing the talking. So I just think he's just a born fighter, isn't he? Like, and a born bad bastard. Like, and I agree with Andy. I don't see anyone at 54 giving him a tough time. Who? He fucking killed Tim Tszyu. You joking me? Tim Tszyu? What would he do with Bud Crawford? He fucking be a punchbag for him. And that's no fucking, I don't care if he's big or not. Like, I just can't see. I can't see him. I would love to see him go up to 54 and beat Charlo. But if he retired now, I'd have no complaints, because, like I said, he's had it all against him his whole career, and he's vindicated now. Like, so he will go down as a Hall of Famer for me. So
I have an odd curiosity, Rob, to see Stan Jonas against him.
I destroy Stan Jonas. He'd bust his face to pieces.
Yeah, I'd like to see that jab work. I ultimately think Bud would time his jab and he'd find something over the top. But I do think Stan Jonas is an interesting challenge.
Boots, maybe, but not Stan.
There's a guy we're forgetting at 147 who wants all the smoke, all the world champions.
Mr. Legality.
Aye. Mr. Legalities. Aye. Mr. Not Cleared Yet. Aye. Boots Ennis next. Nah, baby. Let's get Crawford.
Yeah, Rob, Don McNamara's turned up in the chat for you.
It's a week. It's a week for the dominators between Dom McNamara, Dom Henry, and domination by Bud Crawford.
It's a true story that by big up Ricky Burns, one of the very few to go the distance with with Bud Crawford.
Is he the last guy? Is he the last guy to go the distance with him?
Possibly.
There was Postol.
Postol, yeah, by the way, just me talking about like some of Spence's harder fights and that. See, you got to factor in that Porter fight. How hard a fight did Porter give Spence? I mean that was tough inside fighting.
Porter hung it up
by both
early.
guys.
Porter hung it up too early.
Possibly. I agree with that, but.
He pushed him all the way, though, didn't he? Like he pushed him all the way.
He gave more the trouble, right? And he did give Crawford trouble as well. But when it came down to the fact is when it says, right, it's time to get to work, time to do the business, and flip the script. Like you just said, Rob, be that bad bastard. I need you to turn the goods right now. You can go there and do that. And probably Steve asked one of the points like very early in the show when he says, what took him so long? I don't know, really. To be fair, I mean. He could have stepped up whenever he wanted. Maybe he had the money on the ninth round. Who knows?
I think it was a respect for Spence, wasn't it?
He did. Seventh round afterwards.
He said after the fight that he didn't feel his power, but I felt at the start of the third round that Spence did catch him with a big shot, and you could see for the first time, whatever vantage point the camera was at, you could see Bud's legs kind of stiffen a little bit and come together, which you never really see. Now, he disguised it well. He had a high guard and he kind of moved off the ropes, but I think he didn't want to get careless. Like, I think he was hitting him that often that it was probably finding it too easy, that way. Like, and it was just like systematically break him down. But when you see him catch him in the ninth and then he sticks his tongue out at him in the middle, like as if to say, whoa, I have you now, you fucker, you're not getting off the hook. But everything about it, even the M&M walkout and all that, like, fucking fantastic. Like, the way that came together, and like, if you'd that could have gone so wrong. He could have been memed to death today, like, because all Black Twitter was like, oh no, not mom spaghetti, here we go.
I thought he done the right thing there, actually. Rather than make him the focal point and the attention, he just slipped. He just says, right, all the best, bud, on you go, and he slips away off into the crowd, not to his seat. Yeah, I thought that was quite cool, because rather, as I say, he would need to have went to the ring in its entirety and then keep it going, that type of thing. I thought it was done all right, to be fair.
I also like that he didn't do that fucking bullshit where people rap over their own fucking vocal track. Like, how the fuck can they not pull the vocals from these tracks when these guys are going to the ring? So Eminem didn't even fucking do it. He just let the fucking track play and wandered off. There you go.
Who would you have play you out, Matty, if you were a high class performer?
If I was a boxer, who would I have bring me out to the ring?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know, man. If I was gonna do some fucking rap, man, I might actually go like fucking Yellow Wolf. I don't know.
John Cena or something like
that. Yellow Wolf.
Roy Jones.
Oh, dude, come on, dude. Oh, yeah, dude. That album that Eminem produced got fucking 4.5 mics. Fuck off. But anyways, that's a different fucking podcast, right, Rob? But I think it would actually be funny to come out to some fucking hillbilly shit. Fucking, I don't know, some fucking like Jason Boland and the Stragglers blowing through the hills, something like that.
Some fucking someone. You know what? Fucking Paulie Malignaggi dropped the ball, didn't he? Should have come out to like some fucking Paul Anka over the years or something, some real Italian crooner shit. Put your head on my shoulder.
Well, look at Katie Taylor's entrance. That went down like a lead balloon, didn't it?
What was that the last time? What did she come
I don't know. It was like some like religious sort of slow thing. And
B-Hop was coming out to My Way for the last few fights of his career, if I recollect.
That's right. That was great, actually. That was brilliant when he did that. He actually had someone do like a fucking Jamaican style dub where they redone the lyrics and fucking like the My Way song was all about Hopkins. I'd love to see if anyone has a copy of that, actually. That was fun. That was against Pascal, wasn't it? He had the ski mask and that.
Yeah, he's the alien, become the alien, didn't he, towards the end and all that. Right, they've got a few super chatters. First of all, Josh Ford says Burns, Postol, and Beltran are the only guys to go 12 with Bud in title fights. Captain Casual, that's Damo, threw in $9.99. Shout out to him. He said he might have been proper hardcore last night and won with the bookies in the early hours. But here's a small contribution towards Matt Butters getting his bloody email address fixed. Shout out to Matt Butters. He's hanging around in the chat as well. One for you, Matty, from Teddyboy94. This is a friend of us, Ted Barrett, throwing in $4.99. He says, with this all-time great coming out party for Crawford this weekend, can we hear about Matty's night out with the Boxing Newsboys?
So yeah, I
Ooh.
can actually talk. I will actually talk about the boxing news, boys. The rest of the trip I will not discuss. The boxing news, the boxing news boys were great, and I'm obviously going to forget names, but Ben and Rob I can remember off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. Elliot maybe was the other guy. I'm missing one for sure though. I do apologize. And we got to sit down in the Aria. Bullshit about boxing and just a little, just a little bit of UK US banner kind of stuff too, and wandered around and headed up to the blackjack tables over at the Cosmopolitan, and Rob and I played a little over there. I started I put 100 on the table, walked away with 750. It was a
£7.50.
750. Yeah, $100 on the table, walked away with $750. Yeah, I also want to parlay this weekend too. I don't want to spoil because those fights are going to come up next, but yeah, I'll finish that off. One of the bets in the parlay was either fighter be knocked down in Crawford Spence plus 140, so that's basically 3-2, I think. But those, and then we wandered on over to the Bellagio and hung out by the fountain for a few. Great bunch of guys. They're doing everything they can to put in the work to cover these fights. Coming to the U.S., they were in Mexico for Canelo, and be sure to support them because they're doing some great on the work ground and doing boxing journalism, old school style, with the modern flair. Just a fantastic group of guys. Had a great time with them. It's a shame that Donnie didn't get to hang out with us for that, but it was a hell of a good time, and I hope to see you guys again for sure.
Yeah, emotional stuff from Matty there. Shout out to Ronnie Hussein. He says, got my order in for the new merch. Not really sure what merch he's talking about, but hopefully he'll show us, send us a photo whenever he gets that done. We have a shout out to the chat very shortly. Before we do so, we had a few questions. A couple of them are segueing into the Japanese stuff, so we'll save those from Danny Young and Marcus Bellinger. Take Ames through this in. We talked about it earlier. He said, would anybody pick Terence Crawford to beat Mayweather and or Pacquiao? Obviously not the current versions. Of course, Matty.
Pacquiao didn't want that fight, didn't he?
I would pick Crawford to beat them both.
Pacquiao never wanted that fight.
No, that was 2017. I know Roach didn't fancy it either. What about Prime Pacquiao, Prime Mayweather against the version of Crawford we saw last night?
All right, so let's think. So let's go to even 140 maybe, because I think if Manny would have had one more fight at 140, it would have been interesting. Because I think he could have. I think that was his top weight for really having true power, rather than just a speed aspect. So I think at 140, still an interesting fight, but I would still favor Crawford. He has a lot of the tools that Mayweather had that troubled Pacquiao, but he also has incredible pop, and he does it as the larger man in this situation. I have no problems picking Crawford against Pacquiao. Against Mayweather, I am convinced that Bud would be able to get Floyd, trying to shoulder roll on the ropes, and he would work him into something. We know he could be hurt. Maidana, cracked him really good around, kind of the time when we'd be discussing them fighting possibly. So, yeah, I have no problem taking Bud over both of them. I'm here to tell you guys, I really think that Bud is going to end up being looked at as the best fighter of the last 25 years. I God honestly believe that.
Andy, as you mentioned, obviously Pacquiao fight was talked about, but that was a kind of diminished version of Pacquiao. Matty's mentioning 140 Pacquiao was sort of looking around De La Hoya, Hatton, Cotto sort of region, 2008, 2009. As for Floyd, I know this probably wasn't his peak, but for 140 performances, I equated his performance against Arturo Gatti, actually, against Inoue against Fulton. I know it was Gatti and he was there to be hit, but that night in 2005, Floyd was absolutely magnificent. He barely missed a shot all night.
Yeah, it was target practice against Gatti, and I'm just thinking about, there was Chop Charlie was at 140 as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you look at it, I mean, if you look at his one of our opponents, I mean, you look at like Judah, this is up at 147 now, of course. You've got Baldemir, De La Hoya, Hatton, Marquez. I think there's a question, how would like a Crawford Marquez fight have went? So it's an interesting one as well. I don't know if,
at the time he was dragging Marquez up, wasn't he? Marquez, like he hadn't gone through his full big back fill out to 147.
Marquez could be notoriously slow starter and get picked off early.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's one of these topics of conversation is going to crop up now, isn't it? Because obviously Crawford's now the face of the sport, or so to speak, amongst the hardcore at least. That, but you're going to make these type of comparisons. He deserves his name to be discussed. Especially in the top echelons of the sport. How would he do against the likes of Mayweather? It's a
Floyd
tough
always
fight.
found a way, didn't he?
He always did, but Southpaws always gave him problems. And you've got like Floyd could be cute on the inside. He could grapple. He could be dirty. He could forearm you. I want to see how that would compare with likes of Crawford and that as well, with his nous on the inside and how dirty he can be. I think it's one of these type of chess matches. It takes it to the streets a little bit and that as well as dog pound territory. I'm not going to say one way or the other that with the absolute certainty that Crawford would beat Floyd, because he says there's two great fighters, and Floyd at one point was, in terms of speed, defence, it was second to none at that time. So I'm not going to say that Floyd is going to get absolutely annihilated. It's one of these fights. It's a fight within a fight, because you've got wee fights in between it. You've got the in-fight, and you've got the speed to deal with. You've got the power of Crawford, and you've got the timing of Crawford, timing of Floyd. So it's one of the chess matches that I think you could pick it either way. I think Manny, I think he would definitely. I mean, you're talking the speed of Manny at his prime. Is that Cotto?
So fast, wasn't he? Like David Diaz says, fast, so fucking fast. I thought Freddie was hitting me in there. Yeah, the infamous interview.
I remember that. Actually, David Diaz. I remember he got dropped right in his face today.
That's right.
That was an awful beating. That was at 135. Yeah.
Oh, his face was a mess.
I'll have to cut that one for the future. That was
poor bugger, man. Yeah. So look, if Crawford can time the speed, manage attacks, for example, when you saw him back off Spence last night and just time that right hook for that, I think it was the second knockdown. I think if he could catch Manny coming in like Marquez caught him, I think Crawford gets to him somehow late. Again, no diminishing Manny anyway, but I think just with Floyd's technical abilities, it's a much harder fight. So yeah, I'll go with that now. But it's going to come up as general comparisons and that. But I like there's fighters on each of those resumes. I would love to kind of talk about Crawford fight, like Marquez that I mentioned there, Alvarez, Cotto, guys like that. I'll looking up. So about a Prime Mosley, for example, great fighters. In the
Prime Mosley was lightweight. Well, I thought at lightweight he was fantastic, wasn't he, Mosley?
He was,
yeah.
But I mean, he could punch. He had a good beard. That would have been actually that would have been a good fight. That honestly would have been a good fight.
Mm-hmm. Rob, do you have anything to throw in on Ames's question there before we move on?
No, I think it's a fucking. I'm guilty of this shit too. Because last night, as soon as he won, I was like, he would give Floyd a run for his money, wouldn't he? I can't. I'm looking at these two, and there's not much between them. And I know resume again. We're going to resumes, but I just go off what I can see, and I'm thinking to myself, anyone on that Showtime run, Bud Crawford would have beat him and probably stopped him. Maybe not stopped Maidana, but I think he would have stopped Robert Guerrero. I think he would have stopped that version of Cotto, Andre Berto. I think he would have stopped him. So I think he might have looked better against some common opponents, but would that mean that he would beat Floyd? I don't know. But I don't know if Floyd ever fought a switch hitter who was just as good on either side.
Conor McGregor
would have been a guy with a beard like Crawford. And again, you get recency bias in this, because Tuesday afternoon Inoue was the number one pound for pound guy in the sport, and then Saturday Bud Crawford's the number one pound for pound guy. For me it is Bud, but boxing is so subjective, so fickle. There's so much recency bias. For me, the fucking Floyd one gets overplayed a bit, because I don't think Floyd would have beaten Ray Leonard or Thomas Hearns, because they were within my lifetime, that way. So I don't know. I think it would be a very, very tight fight, and I wouldn't bet against Bud. I wouldn't bet against him winning, but at the same time, I could see a way that Floyd beats him. So would have been a fantastic fight. But again, it's fucking waste of energy, isn't it? Because it's fucking never going to happen. Not worth thinking about.
We're good at wasting our energy, Rob.
Crawford,
Yeah, dear,
I haven't got much left, that way. I don't want to be wasting it. But yeah, no. Let us enjoy Crawford when he's here and have his moment.
Yeah. No, it's difficult because you think about when Crawford fought Floyd fought a fighter like Crawford, but then of course you got to take Crawford at his peak, and what we saw last night. It's difficult trying to add those things up. Anyway, that's the discussion for that. We did a good solid hour.
Donnie made a good point actually
Ooh.
when we were walking back. He said he thought he was going to be on here today. I don't know what the hell he's up to, but he said that beating. He said that beating for him was similar to Floyd against Corrales, and I'm like, that's actually a pretty fucking reasonable comparison.
That's not a bad one actually. Although Corrales wasn't going down as heavy, I don't think, Andy, and he didn't really have the shit beaten out of him quite as badly as Errol last night. I don't think on the whole. I know he went down 5 times, but
yeah, I think it was he was up. It was just a kind of more kind of sharp shooting the Floyd's punches actually.
He was so accurate, wasn't he? He bounced up from a few of them, and at the end he still wanted to carry on, but he wasn't as badly beaten. But yeah, that's a fair enough comparison.
Again, I'm repeating myself, but if you listen, if you go back and watch that fight, I'll just listen. Even the response it gets, but sometimes when he landed that jab again there last night, Crawford, when you seen the actual visible reaction of Spence to that jab, the crowd were like, "Ooh!" You literally fucking hear it just oohing in the arena. I say the power on that shot alone, it was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Right, boys, Matt Butters says, my mom is listening to the pod and wants to know when you'll be talking about the undercard, so we better get on Mrs. Butters there. We'll call her Marge, shall we?
Sorry, can I just say one thing before we go past that? Maximum credit to Errol Spence for even being able to fight at this level after that fucking car crash, because we all thought, like, how the fuck he even walked again after that? Like, it didn't end up fucking paralyzed or completely retired after the car crash. Is a miracle. And to come back and fight at a high level and get a couple more world titles before losing to Crawford, I don't think there's any shame in that. Like, that's a fucking. I think we can all agree he was a different fighter before the crash. Like, but I think that we have to kind of give him a bit of credit for that, like, for even coming back to the ring after that crash. Like,
no, absolutely, well said, Rob. Well said indeed. Andy, we'll go to you first of all then. I saw Isaac Cruz's win over Giovanni Cabrera. I thought Cabrera would cause him problems beforehand, but maybe wouldn't be hard enough a puncher to get him out of there, which proved to be the case. Didn't see the Donaire Santiago fight. I know a lot of the boys were going for Santiago. I went for Donaire, another L for me. I did see Yoenis Tellez knocking out Sergio Garcia.
Ooh.
Sergio Garcia was like complaining while getting the shit completely beaten out of him. We'll start with that one, and I suppose what on earth was going on there? I do not know.
Well, that was a great right hand by Tellez, and literally it's dropped Garcia like an accordion, but he's like bounced back up my Jack in the Box literally, and he's like, "Oh, thank you!" Boom, hits him again, fucking flatlines him, and he gets up, and he's complaining about it. He's like, "What happened to me there? What's going on here?" And then I think the follow up, mate, I think it's a right hand, and it's followed up with our left hook or something. Absolutely just smashed the guy to bits, mate. So I think Ozzy was asking questions about him during the week because I don't think he knew much about him.
It was supposed to be Andy Jesus Ramos, I believe, who beat Joey Spencer. Was supposed to be going against Garcia, but he withdrew with a hand injury, and Tellez took the fight at 3 weeks' notice, maybe.
Well, I see he's got another fight arranged for a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, we were saying that on the Nuthouse call last night. He's fighting on the 26th of August, yeah.
Seems to be headlining that show as well, so it might be one of those... we call them next gen cards, so I want to keep an eye on. I want to keep an eye on because I liked him. You certainly, he looks skilled enough, moved pretty well, and in the ending, that's what you want. And so that's what gets people talking. That's what kind of puts asses in the seats and gets some bigger opportunities. And that. I'm just looking at his stats here at the minute. Some of these power shots, that like 41%, his punches, 22% of his jabs. Yeah, I mean, look. Everything to like about the guy in that as well. So I like to see him again. But that was some right hand though. Just the way you see Garcia popping back up like that.
He's raging at the ref. I'm like, what on earth are you complaining about?
He literally popped back up with your hands down, free shot, bang, and then literally, as I say, it's like he travelled in midair as he kind of fell backwards. It was phenomenal. What a shot it is.
And you got to give some serious credit to Tellez there because Sergio Garcia has gone the distance with Fundora, Tony Harrison as well. Absolutely. And I mean, people actually had him favored in that fight. That was after he had that showing against Fundora where he did well. And Harrison was coming off that lackluster draw against Brian Perella. Tellez just an absolute. I thought the first couple rounds that Garcia was actually doing pretty good, pushing him back, making it uncomfortable, and then just out of nowhere, just bop, and went all downhill from him at that point in time. Really excited to see this kid come up. He was a slight underdog. He was paying dead even money, so it was very close to the books, basically even. So I mean, yeah, for a what was a 6-fight novice, hell of a good win right there. And he did help me to complete my parlay, Steve. Fine, it was a good weekend. So yeah, we had either fighter to be knocked down. We had Mr. Telez to win, and also Mr. Santiago to win, which broke my heart to do because I love Donaire.
That Telez one's going to be class. It's going to be at least mentioned in upset of the year, really. No?
I don't know. I don't know what the thinking was there. The PBC are usually quite calculated. They brought him in thinking, although they made a mistake with Elvis Gomez, I suppose, the other week. But on paper, Andy, it's definitely an upset. But these Cubans get moved very fast, don't they? He's only had 5 fights. Gomez only had 6 or 7. Morel's only had 9. The fact they get moved so fast maybe indicates that they thought that this was coming.
Well, the thing is, as well, I only learned this last night, but you see, he started his pro career in Russia.
Yeah, that's right. He went to Russia as soon as he left Cuba. Sorry, yeah.
Defected, I don't know if it's defection or no, but then obviously he's managed to leave there just before COVID's hit, and then he hasn't fought for 2 years, so
must have been cold for him, wouldn't it? Like from Havana to friggin' in the middle of St. Petersburg or wherever he was.
Okay, it'd be brutal, mate. Big, massive culture shock. Go at the right time as well, man. He could have got conscripted. He could have been in Ukrainian bog somewhere, you know. Christ. But yeah, look, there's a lot to like about him actually as well. I mean, he's 25 now. I think you're right. I think he will get fast track. As long as if he remains active, we'll just see what he's got booked anyway. I had his record there. Give me a second. So he's fighting 26th of August against Juan Gonzalez, 32-2, 32 knockouts from Venezuela, Panama.
Yeah, should beat him.
Went the distance with Magomed Kurbanov in Russia, 10 rounds.
Oh, must be sturdy enough then. Okay.
Knocked out Licker Ramos. I think he fought Juan Manuel Marquez. Seems to see if there are other names in his record here, mate. But no, but most of his fights has been in Venezuela, I think, by looks at. So the level opponent we don't know. So I think that could be an inflated record, to be fair.
We'll keep an eye on that one.
10 rounder anyway.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on that one if I can. Do you think Telez was the story of the undercard from what you saw, really?
Yeah, I probably would say so. I mean, I only caught the last 5 rounds of the Cruz fight when I woke up and watched the fight live. So, yeah, it was. I suppose it was a bit. Cabrera, for what I saw of it, at least he was having these moments where he was boxing pretty well, but then Cruz had to kind of press on strong a little bit, but then he kind of faded in the stretch the last couple of rounds. Some were saying he was lucky enough to win that, so I'll leave it to other people to say. Maybe Matty.
Oh, Matty was there. What do you think, Matty? I thought Cruz was a worthy winner, and he looks like he might be fighting Ryan Garcia. I liked his comment afterwards. He said, Cabrera was hugging me that much, I thought it was my birthday.
That's pretty good. That was pretty good. I thought it was a really close fight. I thought that the judges had it 114, 113 either way were pretty much dead on. It was pretty close. I think Cruz kind of took over, like you give it around like kind of the 4th, and then he wavered 9th, 10th-ish. Cabrera having doing his best success with his right hand, working his jab, check hooking, turning around the corner, making Cruz chase after him a little bit without really running. It was actually pretty decent footwork early on, but then Cruz started timing that right hand, throwing his left over it, landing some good shots, cornering him, working to the body. And then he just kind of, didn't do much the last couple of rounds, and it almost cost him with that point deduction in the middle there. Yeah, it's good that he was able to win that fight. A loss would have obviously taken the shine off of a potential Tank Davis rematch. But we'll see where he goes from here. I don't know what you guys think, but for some reason, Cabrera kind of reminds me of Mauricio Herrera. I don't know.
Sorry, Matty. You
pulled at me.
I pulled you. I was chatting away. Sorry, Andy. Go on.
It's not bad level to be at. Nobody can be a world champion, but don't know if Herrera was a champion, but he was always there, challenging at least.
He had some good wins. He had a W.
Should have beat Danny Garcia.
He got a few shaftings as well, didn't he?
Danny Garcia in Puerto Rico, remember? Clear as day robbery, that.
Yeah, his problem later on is I think he had problems with the bottle.
Oh, did
Remember,
he really?
that was classy. Danny Garcia's homecoming, eh?
Didn't he beat Provodnikov?
He did.
He did,
Aye, I think he did, aye.
Anything else from the undercard, Matty, before we move on?
I only got in for the Garcia fight, so and Telez. So I just saw the main card. Anything prior to that, I missed.
No problem, Bob. What about you? Anything off the undercard that took your fancy? It wasn't the greatest, especially with the heavyweights falling off as well. I would have been interested to see that Hovhannissian V-Kirst.
No, well, I have to give a shout out to my bro Andy P, who woke me up for the fight. Didn't tap me on the shoulder, by the way. He just rang me.
Twice, I may add.
Yeah, and I just saw on the WhatsApp group, Rob's not making it. It's like, I'm up, dog. I'm up. So, no,
mate,
obviously, this the undercard.
I subconsciously switched my alarm off 3 times, and I actually got it marked up to ring 10 times regardless. So finally got up at 4:45, mate, and I was raging because I was still kind of sitting there like 4:30, and the fight hadn't started yet. I was like, come on.
Well, that was what I was thinking. My alarm was actually set for the 4:30 because I was thinking to myself, ring walks. Who gives a fuck about them? Let them walk to the ring, do their Jimmy Lennon Jr., and I'll get up for ding ding round 1. So, but got there anyway.
And if it makes you guys feel any better, I had to wake up at 5 this morning to catch my plane. And also, I was supposed to fly out at 7:35 on Thursday night, and we ultimately got out at 12:05 on Friday morning.
Bloody hell. You went on EasyJet, were you?
Southwest Airlines. They're going to get a very angry email from me.
Get right in that email, I say. While we're going through the pod this evening, episode 533, Matty's away, busy writing to the airline. Rob's here as well. So is Andy P. Let's give a quick shout out to the chat before we move on to the other big fight during the week. Susie's in the chat. Shout out to her. Shout out to Arlene Burley as well. A lot of female representation, you would imagine there. Jim McDonald's here. So is Michael Thompson, Yumi Yappi, MB, Mark Stanton, Paul Raftery. Just scrolling on up, seeing who else is here as well. Matt Butters is along. Jason Cheel. Shout out to him. Who else have we got here? Mithrandia. Hope I haven't mispronounced that. Mark Rockfist. You don't want to feel the power of that fist, I would imagine. Jason Chuckru's stream is...
should have been Dr. Rockfist.
Dr. Rockfist. Matthew D'Souza's there as well, so is Dale Baker. Alan Stacey's with us. Shout out to him. Boxing Channel, Mike Hunt is here as well. There's a joke in there somewhere. Des, who's thrown in a question already. Shout out to James, who's with us too. No surname for him. Take Ames. Spence Pickers exposed. Come on, Ames. Join me. You're as bad as I am. Kevin Sutherland's there as well. Ian Chalice. Danny Young was floating about earlier. Shout out to him. He did the Boxing Nutters chat last night to get a life. Joe Kennedy jumped on as well. So did Zeconomics. Johnny Horsecott Nelson's with us as well. If anybody else appears, I'll give you a shout out within the next 30 seconds or so. Let us move on. I'm completely unprepared for this next one, but I think it was it Tuesday, Matty? We had the Inoue fight. I'm starting to lose track of all time.
It was Tuesday morning for me. Would have been probably just a bit after lunch for you guys, I think.
Absolutely. Tuesday morning, it was around the sort of 12:30 mark. Naoya Inoue, 24-0 with an 8th round knockout over Stephen Fulton, 21-1. Now WBC, WBO bantamweight titles on the line. I mentioned it earlier. Andy, we'll go to you first on this one. I was just so impressed by Inoue. If Bud Crawford hadn't put in a performance like that last night and sort of overshadowed him, but what an absolute week for boxing. And 2 potentially 50-50 fights. I mean, some people will say Inoue should have been more heavily favoured, but after the fight, we often look at them and we say, we should have seen that coming. We should have saw whatever happened transpiring. I just didn't see Inoue dominating the fight like he did. His jab was superb. He was so much faster. He was hitting Fulton to the body. He dominated the early rounds. Fulton thought, this guy's so fast, I'm afraid to throw. He stood back against the ropes, just could not do anything with Inoue. He was even showboating and shithousing in the second round. It was just the complete performance for me, right up to the end. Whenever he'd had enough, played with his food, caught him with a cracking shot, and just finished him off.
It was, mate. I mean, you've got 2 fights this week who basically split opinion, and then both turned out to be absolute dominations. And there was like literally nothing. There's no debate about it. There was nothing shady going on or anything like that. Even though they tried some shady stuff with this fight, try to cast some doubts, whatever. But it was just emphatic. The speed again. Another one. Yeah, another one is just the jab, head and body, fantastic.
So fast.
It's so quick, mate. I mean, I've seen the right hand there again. The speed off that is just actually incredible. And then he follows it up with a kind of leaping left hook, but he's actually off the ground. Both feet are off the ground as he lands that left hook. Puts if you look at it back, he actually puts Fulton under the ropes. He's actually lying flat. You actually think he's actually Sparkle. You see Inoue up on top of the turnbuckle celebrating, and you actually see then Fulton rolling over, deciding to get back up, and then he gets stunned again, isn't it? It was just another one who made the unified champ look like he didn't even belong there. And it sounds bad to say it, but it's true. Anybody, Rob watched it, you watched it live, Matty watched it live. We're no lying here. Everybody else who saw what happened can testify to it. It was a complete and utter domination. It was, you hate to say it, at that level, it looked so easy. It looked so easy. It's just so quick, so sharp, and it says the ending was quick, emphatic, and basically killer instinct in abundance. That's all you can say. And I picked Fulton last week on points. I expected it to be a close competitive fight. It was nothing like that. I expected a close competitive fight between Spence and Crawford. It was nothing like that. Both fights were just dramatic for their own ends. The actual winner of both fights were just completely dominant, and capital letters dominant. It was just emphatic.
Certainly was an emphatic performance. Oh, there's Rob jumping in there. Rob, question for you jumping in actually from Danny Young. Maybe a question for the pod, maybe a question for Rapping Rob Kelly. Which was the better beatdown, Fulton or Spence?
Well, I think the Spence one was more of a beatdown, if you like, because it was such a fucking brutal. His face looked so brutally fucking battered after it, and it was like he was on shaky legs, and he looked like he actually felt sorry for him. Fulton looked scared, man. Like I thought it'd be a close fight. I thought it'd be a bit of a chess match because I seen Fulton show dog before against Figueroa, and I thought he was going to have enough in the exchanges to get him over to the 12th round. I still thought Inoue's class would show, but frightening. Again, boxing IQ thrown around all the time. People just use these fucking phrases. Boxing IQ, but Inoue's boxing IQ. He set him up for the knockout. So not only did he play with him, he was hitting him with spiteful shots. The speed was scary. The technique on the shots, the way he turns his hand over at the last second on the left hook, fucking like textbook. And then his feet, he's like a fencer. His feet are in and out of distance. His feet are the most scary thing to me. He's like a fucking ballet dancer, a ninja. He's in and out of range. He was stabbing him with that body jab, jab to the body all night, stabbing him. And I always go back to Manny talking me through the time Ray Robinson set up Fulmer with the left hook that he clipped him with by hitting him with 3 body shots before that. And it was like that because Fulton went looking for the jab to the body and bang over the top, similar to the shot Mosley caught Mayweather with, but he didn't manage to grab an arm and lock him up. But Inoue was too strong. He was trying to clinch, trying to hold, try to fight back. Nothing, offered nothing. I thought he was scared from the first. I thought Fulton, and I don't like saying that about fighters, but he was worried. Obviously, not scared is the wrong word, but worried about what was coming back.
Yeah,
because he was hesitant to throw, and even he wasn't committing to his own right hand. It was like he was throwing it out there just for optics rather than actually trying to extend it because he knew the counter was coming. And to have a finish like that at a high level against an elite guy, holds 2 of the belts. He's come up in weight to fight him again as well, and to knock him out like that with shots fuck me, the right hand first and then the left hand to follow that, kind of took both feet off the ground, kind of iconic images. So Inoue's number 2, Buddha's 1, and Inoue's number 2 for me, and everyone else is making up the numbers. It's their world and we're just living in it. You can't speak highly enough about the guy. You'd like him to see maybe get a higher profile, but maybe he doesn't want a fucking higher profile. Maybe he's happy doing what he does. But it was definitely a week in boxing. We've had so many kicks in the balls over the last couple of years with these morons holding up the heavyweight division, and all these fights not getting made, and Spence and Bud being guilty of it as well, taking 5 years to drag it out. But fuck me, that week of boxing delivered big time. It was like the World Cup for me this week, watching fucking fights at lunchtime. It was the World Cup of boxing. It was the elite of the elite performances, the 2 best fighters in the world putting exclamation points on victories against top guys. So what more do you want? Fuck it, if the casuals don't pick up on it, they're lost. We can enjoy it. So
Who was okay then? So hands on the table. Who had the best performance? Inoue or Crawford?
Crawford for me, because of the dominance and the way he left Spence. There was, like Rob said, there was always a chance that Inoue could maybe do that. I really didn't see the one-sided domination.
Plus, Fulton has only ever knocked out 4 guys, hasn't he? So
the punch, he's one of the lowest punching world champions. Yeah,
he wasn't coming with that power that Spence and knockout record Spence had.
I can attest to what Rob was saying as well, is that he was scared. He felt something earlier during that during an early exchange in the very early half of that fight and did not fancy it, I think, as much, because he had one right hand landing about round 7, and Inoue just clicked straight into action, and he's just again back on the periphery, and it's the speed on that right hand for that knockdown. It's just frightening, mate.
He's done what he wanted with him. He's just putting him where he wants as well. That was the fucking most impressive thing. He's just placing him where he wanted. Unbelievable.
Wasn't it interesting how the two respective winners over the week approached the first round differently, Andy? Inoue came straight out and put Fulton on the back foot and asserted his dominance, whereas Crawford came out and had a look at Spence and almost gave him a false sense of confidence, the way the two of them approached that first round differently.
Well, I'm not surprised at Crawford as such, because that was one of the things when I was sitting watching that first round, because I was kind of loath to give it to Spence, because there was nothing really happened there really kind of deserving of a clear 10-9 round, but I gave it to Spence purely because he was more aggressive. But that's Crawford. He has a look the kind of first couple of rounds, but I was getting kind of concerned as if it dragged on.
Yeah.
And then obviously after that first knockdown in the second round, mate, I'm kind of like, and obviously when I see the response when Spence got up with his legs, I just knew that it was a totally different fight. And as I said, any time he landed anything solid, it was buzzing. You could visibly marking up and physically moving Spence to his boots. Inoue's was just, he had a guy basically in front of him who was completely mesmerised with him. He had nothing for him, which is, again, this isn't elite boxing as well, as these two guys stepped up and just showed the people that there's another level beyond fucking Spence and Stephen Fulton. It just seems to be, anyway. We're pound for pound 1 and 2, whatever way you want it. It's just great to watch these two guys fighting in the same week.
The only thing that was missing this week was HBO commentary. They get stuck with these fucking assholes on the fucking Top Rank show. The cheek of Top Rank's international feed having a fucking broadcast on Sky during the day with Christina Poncher and Michaela Mayer. For fuck's sake, who else do we want in there?
Complaining as well that they got up at
Condoleezza Rice or something. All women are just fucking commentating on this fight. Why?
I saw a picture of Mauro Ranallo in his lavender mist outfit.
No, don't even wear something like that.
They are, Matty, on the screen for you.
Poor bastard.
Who wore it better? I know who wearing it better from where I can see, Bob, anyway.
What's
clearly Mauro, innit?
What's Mauro putting in his hair, though, these days?
Mauro looks like, those old HBO documentaries about pimps, and then there's one white guy who talks like he's a black guy from the south, Sonny, Count Chocula or something. That's going to be his pimp name. Shout out Mauro, by the way. That's my guy.
By the way, but Mauro, you see, if they ever want to play a joke on him, pretend or just go up to themselves and fucking Crow Cop's in town, mate. He's looking for you.
my first ever boxing podcast appearance was on Mauro Ranallo's pod, because he found the Canelo Alvarez song that I did and then reached out to me and asked me on to come and predict Floyd versus Canelo 10-2. That was the start of it. I should have fucking just gone straight into it. Forget you guys, straight to the top, me and Mauro.
You could have been Abner Mares. What are you thinking, Rob?
Glass eye.
Hi, Bernstein taking half an hour to make a
every time. It's funny, right? Because Abner was obviously on the commentary last night. I've been on this fucking pod too long. Every time I hear Abner Mares' name, I think of Andy's voice in my head calling him a woggle-eyed freak or something. Where the fuck are woggle?
Oh dear me. Anyway, Matty, back to
pissed off, aren't
yeah, some of your classics from the back in the day, Andy. Matty, back to Japan. Inoue against Fulton. Obviously, the sort of the appetizer to what we saw going down last night. I think what the boys were mentioning there about the fear in Fulton and his reluctance to engage. I agree with that. I was saying it on the Nuthouse call last night. I don't think anybody's heard it, so it's worth repeating tonight. The fact everyone afterwards was saying, oh, he dared to be great. Mad respect to Fulton. He dared to be great. From the point of view going over to Japan, okay, fair enough. He put his titles on the line in away territory against a really fancied, big punching hometown fighter, albeit somebody moving up. Okay, from that respect, I understand. But I think the fact of saying Fulton dared to be great when it comes to his ring performance, that's an insincere line for me, and I don't agree with it at all. And I made the point on the call last night with Danny and the boys. I think that sort of takes away from the warriors of the past. And I know that sounds a bit highfalutin and all, but guys like Matthew Saad Muhammad, my favourite fighter of all time, Philadelphian, the same as Fulton, you had to nail that guy to the canvas in a championship fight to get him out of there. He dared to be great every time. what Stephen Fulton done against Inoue, as applauding as we can of him doing what he did, the actual performance, that's not daring to be great for me. That's a disingenuous line.
Yeah, he I don't know if I want to say like he didn't really try or anything like that. But it wasn't what we expected, right? As correct as Rob and I were on the Crawford fight, we were well, myself at least. I can't remember, Rob, if you said Inoue or not. Actually, I thought, but I was
Anyway, points. I thought
Oh,
Fulton would be
you
able to
yeah.
hang in. I thought he'd be able to hang in. I thought and show a bit of dog and get to the final bell. But yeah, no, your point.
I thought you picked Fulton for some reason. Yeah, I thought Fulton. Might have been. You never know when people moving up the weights when they're just going to go a step too far against a guy who's just a bit too big, a bit too skilled. And I thought that Fulton could have definitely been that guy, but it didn't prove the point. Fulton's going to go to 126 after this, I assume. We'll see what he does from there. He's still a skilled fighter, but this is going to take a bit to get his confidence back off of this one, I think. But it was tough for him because he couldn't seem to find the jab at the right distance to keep Inoue off him. He wasn't able to do any of that inside body work like he was able to do against Leo and Figueroa. So he was left with the mid-range, and that was where Inoue wanted him. The fight was consistently fought at the distance that Inoue wanted, and he was landing spectacular punches. I think Fulton might have been able to make it out of that round if he had just gone down off of that first right hand and not absorbed that other left trying to stay up. That was a little bit of a mistake on his part. But going the distance or going a few more rounds, I don't know how much that would have mattered to him at the end of the day, because he probably wanted to go over there to get a win. But Inoue is a very special fighter, and and although I say that Crawford's the best fighter of his generation, in meaning, and I mean it very honestly, I think Inoue's right up there. And I think much in the way, and their paths will never cross. Look at the weights. Obviously, it's not going to happen like it did with Floyd and Manny, but it's kind of amazing, much like it was with Floyd and Manny, to be watching these two, they'll end up probably top 50 or better, greatest fighters of all time in the consideration of, those boxing minds who discuss such things. And to be witnessing them simultaneously is just amazing. These are two incredible undefeated fighters, and we're still wondering if they keep going where their ceiling might be, what weight class, what opponent. I do expect Inoue to polish, not without any worry whatsoever. To polish, good enough fighter, surprised Akhmadaliev, but I don't think he has the tools to really trouble Inoue all that much. So maybe he might be 2 fights and done at 122 and go test the waters at 126. If Figueroa is able to get through Ray Vargas, I'd love to see a beefier, more weight healthy Brandon Figueroa fight Inoue at that weight. I think that could at the very least be a good weight. He could take a hell of a punch, and he'll work on trying to close that distance. So I think that could be an interesting fight at featherweight. But man, that would be incredible to win titles from 108 up to 126. That is a special guy. And I woke up 6 a.m. to see him, thinking he might lose, but just witnessing greatness again, and proud to get those couple hours early just to see him. Just what a tremendous fighter he is.
I've seen some quotes about him moving up. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, because it was reported as saying that he wants to fight 3 fights. One was against Casemiro. I'm sure the other one was against Tapales, then the other unification, and I think the other name was possibly Luis Neri.
Definitely be Tapales next, wouldn't it? He got in the ring. He's got the 2 belts, undisputed by the end of the year, and then he'd be the second after Crawford, wouldn't he? All undisputed. Another one about the GOAT and all that, but nobody really takes that seriously.
I don't know if there'll be any mandatory.
Fuck you.
I think Inoue was potentially classed as Fulton's mandatory. I'm not too sure about that. So I don't know if Neri will get again. if there's any mandatories that
Oh,
you
was that the
deal with.
WBO thing where you move up as a champion and
Yeah,
you become
Yeah, I mean, if he cleans up all the belts, then all roads lead to him. So we could just knock them off as mandatories, no problem. Neri's got to be top 5 with a sanctioning body, and then Casemiro probably as well. So there shouldn't be an issue to make. I mean, especially with Casemiro. I mean, that's same part of the world right there. That should be a very simple fight.
Yeah, it's a parlays next. I would imagine under.
Beating the shit out of these Filipinos. Are we sure he's not Spanish?
Oh, well, you never know. It might be. Rob, I know you were going to jump in there. A strange fight that seems to be getting a lot of traction. A lot of people are seriously talking about Inoue moving up to fight Gervonta Davis for some reason.
Yeah, well, we know who the fuck that is. Like, that's all the people that lost their ass betting on Fulton and was telling you all this Artman and all those characters like fucking Lefty, OG, and
oh man, yeah, where's he at?
all these fucking morons that don't watch boxing for the right reasons, like they just fucking don't know shit about the sport.
And that Steve Jackson character.
It's like fucking Wesley Snipes in Passenger 57, isn't it? Always bet on black. That's the boys. Like, so fucking. Like, I hate that shit. I hate that from both ways. Like, there's guys that do it the other way around too. They always back the white fighter. There's guys that only back the Mexican fighter. There's guys that only back the black fighter. But the boys online, like, are particularly fucking vocal on Twitter, like, and they're married to their opinion as well. Nobody can tell them nothing.
So strange, man. I don't understand that.
It's a weird. Like, that's why I don't really be on boxing Twitter talking too much about. I only talk boxing here with Jews. I couldn't be bothered like getting into into that shit. But just to get back to the Dare to Be Great thing, I think that's kind of. That another catchphrase that just gets fucking thrown around in sport. You dare to be great when you get beat. Like, cool, like dare to be great is good, but now that catchphrase has come about because we get so many fighters who don't dare to be anything. They just want to take the money. Just like cool.
2 fights a year,
give me the money, man. I don't give a fuck about fighting the world champion. So
he dared
that's
to
kind
fight.
of where it came from. Yeah, dare to fight. Like, so he was there to fight. He didn't dare to be great, but he was there to fight. I don't think there's much he could have done, to be honest with you. I think he was in survival mode. He's just fighting a fucking guy who's levels above him. But the Dare to Be Great thing is a lot of fucking shite, and it's only kind of coming. It's only coming kind of full circle in boxing now because people are actually surprised when champions fight each other. Normally they'll fight the fucking guy in the top 15. Go, look, I'm trying to make this fight. I'm sending fellas contracts, but I just can't do it. Give me this number 15 from fucking Lithuania and see what I can do with him. That way. So fucking. I just think fucking.
Oleg, knockout.
Fulton's face for the whole fight looked like Curtis Stevens when he got hit by Golovkin for the whole fight, didn't it? Like, what the fuck is this, man? Get me on the Tokyo Express out of here. Like, I
just needed a Photoshop gravestone behind him and all, and it would have been complete.
The fact there are people saying the stoppage, some people saying the stoppage was early, and that, oh my god. Fucking mad, dude.
There was people
he slumped over like fucking Amir Khan when he got hit by Danny Garcia at the fucking very last punch. He just went ding ding ding. It was fucking stoppages early. Yeah, fucking break. You want to kill him? Fuck off.
They're bloodthirsty, Rob.
They wanted a definitive conclusion. Doesn't it matter? It's like Steve Smoger. Are you dead,
Steve
mate?
Smoger. Or Derek James, the ghost of Steve Smoger, flip me. Definitive conclusion.
And that was, I mean, good performances by the referees recently too. They did not fuck up these fights. Nothing went to the judges, so we can't, didn't even go that direction. So, I mean, but the referee's been keeping everything in check. Who was the ref in the Inoue fight? Do you remember?
Hector Afu.
Hector Afu. I'm trying to remember. I know I've seen him in some other fights. Seemed to do a good job there.
Yeah, he's done a few. He does a few out there when in those Dubai, Saudi Arabian cards. They bring him over. He did the Tommy Fury card, Jake Paul fight.
He wasn't reffing much during COVID because every time they announced his name, people start ducking. He's like, Afu.
Your name spreads particles.
Andy, the only thing worth mentioning just about on the undercard was Robezi Ramirez. At least he got rid of that big stiff idiot. I feel bad because he seemed like a nice fella. Satoshi, old Mr. Bitcoin, came out. He had a go, but he should not have been anywhere near a world title. That was like the WBO world title defenses of 20 years ago, wasn't it? Him being,
to be honest, mate, he didn't really transition there properly as a
terrible.
pro. He was awful, mate. I think he possibly even got stopped off someone early in the half of his career. To be fair, writing was on the wall for him. That classic amateur fighter just hasn't transitioned across. And you see the difference in class levels, mate. Absolutely destroyed, pulled out in the end. Thank God that they haven't kind of put up with that shit for much longer. But Ramirez, again, another one actually got a belt. Another one who's maybe championing a bit now to try and get some unification fights. that Luis Lopez fight would be an interesting one, wouldn't it? You know, banging against a counter puncher. I think I don't know what the situation is with his
Talking about
promotion.
Lopez fighting Navarrete, I think, aren't they?
Are they? And you've
Is
got
it
Lee
not?
Wood.
No, is it Navarrete? Might not be Navarrete.
Lopez is fighting Joet Gonzalez at the end.
Yes,
of
he's
next
fighting.
month.
Yeah, they were talking about him fighting somebody else after Gon.
Right.
Might have been Ramirez. Sorry, Andy, I might have thrown you off track. It might have been Ramirez.
I think you're very correct. I think you're correct on that, Steve.
Yeah, and also Lee Wood's been given permission to have a voluntary defence over his mandatory, so he's getting to fight Josh Warrington now. So.
Of course, yeah. Who didn't fucking predict that one?
Yep.
Jesus.
So that because at Kolomatov, so he's that's the second time he's been bypassed now for that fight. So and you also is it Ray Vargas? Is he now got a belt back up at the BBC?
Yeah.
Has he?
No, he lost to Oshaki Foster. He's fighting somebody in the chat they were mentioning earlier.
That was at 130 against Oshaki Foster.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes. Sorry, it's hard to keep up with all this, isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, if you're saying Joey Gonzalez is going to be fighting stable at top rank and that, I can understand it, but unless Inoue moves up, there's not really a big name for Ramirez at this point. So he'll have to kind of pick his bones there, that one pretty well, because I don't think he wants to be moving up to 130 just now. He needs to still build himself a little bit.
Yeah,
that way.
unifications, absolutely, yeah.
What about Nick Ball? How do you think Nick Ball would fare against the likes of against Ramirez?
Well, it'd be interesting. He'd bring the heat and they'd throw a few bombs at each other, wouldn't they? And Ball would probably be going the WBO route, being with Frank Warren, so that's not outside the realms of possibility.
Is Ball featherweight or is he super featherweight? I can't remember.
Feather.
Is he? He's a fucking bulky.
You
guy.
like him, don't you, Matty?
Yeah, he beat the crap out of Isaac Lowe, man. How could you not? I mean, he's a burly little motherfucker. I mean, he's built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to quickly have a mention of all the things over the weekend. Oh, Chase Athletics threw in $10. Our American correspondent, shout out to Chase Athletics, for throwing in $10. I think he picked Crawford as well last week, so he's loving life over there. Quick cursory mention of the things from last week. We're not going to go into these in any great detail. Last night, Saturday evening, Liam Davis banged out Jason Cunningham in the first round. Really solid fighter now at that sort of British, European, Commonwealth levels. Liam Davis brings a good crowd in Telford as well, so fair play to him. Ethan James getting a win over James Moorcroft. Moses Atoma getting a win as well. And Bomber Brown, nice big heavyweight, getting the knockout over Jake Darnell. On Friday evening in Las Vegas, Sinisa Estrada got a 10-round decision win over Leonela Paola Udica. Andreas Cortez stopped Xavier Martinez with a retirement in the 7th round, and Abraham Nova knocked out Jonathan Romero in the 3rd round. Bit of an upset to see Carlos Balderas losing as well, a majority decision over 8 rounds to Nahir Albright. What else did we have?
Albright's a good fighter. I've seen him on a couple of pro box cards. He's a solid fighter.
If you're not prepared against him, Matty, he'll give you a bit of trouble, as Balderas found out.
Absolutely. He's a good trade fighter.
Yeah. Certainly is. And shout out to Gary St. Clair. We mentioned him last week. 48 years young. Superman. The comeback was on after 10 years out of the ring. He lost a majority decision over 12 rounds to Michael Hall. The cards were quite close, but unfortunately at 48, I don't think he's going to become the future of boxing as we predicted last week.
Son of Richard D. Hall, I think that guy is, isn't
it?
Did you say over 12 rounds, Steve?
Over 12 rounds. He was straight back in. Yeah.
That was... Maybe that was the wrong play. He might have wanted to work out with like an 8-rounder first.
10-year layoff. Maybe the PBC will be getting in touch, Matty, for his next fight in 2033.
There you go. It's perfect. He'll be on, he'll be on a Triller card or something of that nature. Who knows what's going on? The sky's really the limit, Steve. Actually, if anyone has any contact with him, tell him to try bare knuckle.
48, Matty, you trying to get the poor fella killed?
Dude, this UFC guy who is like 51 years old is a fucking bare knuckle champion right now. Someone Houston, I think is his name, or maybe he's from Houston. I can't remember.
Talking of 51-year-olds, Andy, I was going to save this for Belly of the Week, but no better place to throw it in now. Yuri Boy Campus returning at the weekend.
Yeah, I forgot.
At 51.
Dude, an all-time badass.
I chased the result. I couldn't find it, honestly, unfortunately. Just as you mentioned the 51-year-olds, I was watching something on, I think it might be the Golden Boy documentary briefly, it might be an outtake. Remember that old prisoner that got released for a crime he didn't commit, possibly, I can't remember, Dewey something, and he came back to have a pro fight. Remember him? I forgot completely. Do you remember his name, Matty? I forget his surname.
Yes,
Dewey.
I'm remembering what the heck you're talking about now. Yeah. He was an older black guy, right?
Aye, that's right.
Yeah.
Aye.
I can't remember his last name though. And he
Oh,
just
Dewey Borzella.
There
That's
you go.
It. There you
Here
go.
we are,
Dewey
boys.
Borzella.
I'll read it out because I'm finding out this information. Dewey Borzella is a former professional boxer who is known for being wrongfully imprisoned. Convicted in '83 for the murder of an elderly woman, Borzella served 26 years in prison before his conviction was overturned in 2009, and then he was proved innocent and he came out and resumed his boxing career.
There you go. And I appeared on, I think it was a Golden Boy undercard possibly that he appeared on eventually when he got his license because he had to have a couple of sparring sessions or something.
Oh, you know what? I think I do remember something about that. Yeah, 2011, he beat Larry Hopkins over 4 rounds.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was his one and only fight. So
It was the undercard, Andy, of Bernard Hopkins versus Chad Dawson in Los Angeles at 52 years of age. Yeah, I do remember that.
The first one, that sucked.
That was terrible. Was that the one when he got injured? Was that?
Yeah.
Is that the one where he got through up the ground?
He got through down, didn't he? That's right.
Oh, I remember that now.
Does anyone think it's a good time for Yuri Boy Campos to change his nickname?
Just looks like your dad sitting there.
It's a long time ago, that one.
It's crazy. Remember fighting Matthew Mackley in 2009 in Dublin, and people were muttering then about that he was too old, and here he is.
I gave you his record. It was 100-odd fights.
He's the one over 100 fights,
3 draws or something.
Yeah, it's insane.
Any of the Chuckle brothers ever go to Mexico, by the way?
Oh my gosh!
He is an all-time badass, and he had a pretty good resume, in the beef of his career. Actually, he fought some good fighters.
Yeah, Fernando Vargas fought De La Hoya, didn't he? I think he would have been in with a load of them. Chavez, Costas I think he might have fought. Yeah, 108, 17 and 3, knocked out 9 times. He turned pro in 1987.
There's a great backstory.
Career is 2 years shorter than my life.
There's a great backstory to the Vargas one, by the way. Vargas stopped him, didn't he?
Yes.
Apparently, Yuri Boy Campos sparred Vargas when he was like 15, and he made him cry. And he took it out, he beat the living shit out of him, like an experienced pro, no such thing as sparring, absolutely fucking. And Vargas said, when he was on the way home, his coach was like, "Don't worry, we fucking get him. Someday we get him." And he fucking stopped him when they turned pro, spiteful stoppage, so.
No way. That's a good story as well, because that was the story with him and De La Hoya, wasn't it? Wasn't De La Hoya pushed him when they were running down a hill or something, and that was the whole beef that led to the fight? Yeah, apparently so. Yeah. He said they're out running, and he nudged him down a hill.
You're rough and tough.
Oh, for goodness sake. Shout out to Michael McElway throwing in a tenner there. Shout out to Mick throwing in a tenner on the super chats. Lovely stuff. On to next week's action. We'll go over it quickly, and if anyone wants to throw anything in, they can.
And I'll get ahead of you, Steve. I did some research on that. I actually went and did some sleuthing beyond the boxing schedules. And I found nothing new about Danny Garcia, Arislandi Lara. Went to the Barclays website to look at events that are happening. It was not on their schedule. So it looks.
So we don't think it's happening.
Nope, and it was scheduled at 155 pounds for the middleweight title. As you know, I call that the Puerto Rican two-step, and so it looks like they just quietly canceled it after us boxing fans said, "What the fuck is this shit?"
Yeah, I wondered why they hadn't mentioned it on the broadcast.
The one random thing that I picked up when I was searching, though, is there's rumbles of Garcia Thurman 2.
Lara would have beat the shit out of Danny Garcia and finished him for good. I think. Even now, I think Lara kicked this. I think Danny Garcia is one of the biggest disappointments for me, because he was on the trajectory, to be a top 47 pounder, and just threw it all away. For me, I never thought he was that good either. By the way, I thought what's his name beat him, Mauricio Lara, was it?
Ashley Theophane. Me and Andy were talking about that the other night.
Yeah, he got a lot of gifts in that, and he just fucking wastes his. It's a bit PBC welterweightish, isn't it? It's Thurman-esque and fucking Garcia, the two of them. They didn't really they didn't carpe diem, did they?
Didn't British Ashley get robbed against him?
That's what we just said. Yeah, Theophane beat him. We were watching that fight, me and Andy, very recently. Yeah. So it's not on. I wondered why it wasn't on the box rec schedule, which isn't any indicator these days that a fight might necessarily be taking place. But it seems like that one has been canned, unfortunately, if you were looking forward to it. Right, let's throw out the action for next weekend. So next Friday, on the 4th of August, Falls Park for the Failer in Belfast. I'll be there ringside, soaking this one up. Podrick McCrory against Steed Woodall, Sean McComb on the undercard, amongst an assortment of other prospects. On the same evening in Pennsylvania, I'll not be ringside for this one. Jordan White going in against Eridson Garcia. This is mine and Matty's favourites, the old Showbox cards. So I'm looking forward to that one. Also, again on the same night in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Overtime Arena, Elijah Pierce going in against Mike Planier. DAZN just about clinging on as best as they can. And I'm sure you want to have a quick word about this on the Saturday evening, Matty, the 5th of August. Shadazia Green is going in against Olivia Curry. Jake Paul against Nate Diaz. And on the main event, we have Amanda Serrano against Heather Hardy. Might not be the main event, actually, though, Matty. Maybe Jake Paul will be the main event. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Sorry, Steve. I thought I was unmuted.
Ooh.
So you and I have both scored one today.
Good.
Yeah, I think Jake Paul is going to be the headliner on this particular card. He's going in there against Nate Diaz. Nate over the hill is an MMA fighter. I saw some of the sparring. Nothing very intriguing at the end of the day. I think that Paul's going to knock him out, get another one of them MMA guys on his resume. And Diaz, I don't think, is as capable of a boxer as Anderson Silva either. The Amanda Serrano Heather Hardy rematch. Come on, Amanda, you only have so much left. I know you wanted to give Heather a chance because she gave you a chance, etc., etc. But this is a reasonably pointless fight in your career. I've heard that it looks like Alicia Baumgardner is going to be fighting Pursoon. So maybe after that one, we might end up with Serrano against Baumgardner, which is a fight I'd really like to see before Amanda calls it a day, but I don't know.
Pursoon a fight against Katie Itchy. My baby Baumgardner.
Yeah, Pursoon and your baby. That's going to be a good fight, but yeah, that's months down the road. For the undercard, Shadazia Green, her opponent, Olivia Curry, nothing super special about her. She has a little bit of an amateur background. It's probably going to be 13-0 with 12 knockouts after this one, Steve. I think this is just a stay busy fight for Green, as she did the step aside that allowed Marshall to challenge Cruz DAZN. And so she's going to be taking on Marshall. Again, I think it's going to be a good fight. I know I know I missed the mark on Marshall Cruz DAZN being a good fight, but I do think Green against Marshall is a fantastic fight. Both of them can bang, but Shadazia can bang harder, and it'll be a curious one right there. I think Shadazia might be the gal who gives us a knockout on the big stage, moves the sport forward, which is the one thing it hasn't had in the last few years. And she's 33 years of age. It's time for her to get onto it at this point in time. So not the most interesting card. I think there's a couple of guys fighting further down the card, a couple of prospects that are decent, but this is definitely not the best offering from Jake Paul and DAZN at this point in time. I don't know that I'll be tuning in this weekend.
Ooh. Rob, not that I want to drag us into Misfits territory by any stretch of the imagination, but I like the way DAZN are pushing the fact they've got Jake Paul, influencer extraordinaire. He had the big rise up to the fight against Fury on Showtime, and then as soon as he loses that fight, they've ditched him, and DAZN are picking up the leftovers at the table.
Well, speaking of big rises, DAZN are lining up a fight, I believe, in the Misfits world between Elle Brooke, porn star, and OnlyFans girl, and Emily Brooke, her sister, porn star, and OnlyFans girl. So I think they're hoping that they fight each other, and then if that goes well, that they fight each other again in a rematch. What the fuck is going on? Honestly,
some people watch violent porn, and other people watch porn violence. It's an odd world.
A history of violence. Oh my goodness! I don't know where we go from
We'll
there.
never forget.
We'll never forget, indeed. Andy, anything you're looking forward to next weekend? Feel free to keep your answer short.
No, wait. We'll foxtrot Oscar pretty quick.
Oh dear, yeah, we'll watch something maybe. Anyway, let's move
Wellings
on.
is an
Yeah.
assassin, man. Any OnlyFans and horses.
Yeah.
Well, don't rule it out, Steve. Let's not rule it out.
That could be next. You never know. Tried everything else. Don't know what El Buck will be doing with the horses, but we'll tune in. Right, let's move on to Value of the Week then for episode
Don't know, but I'd watch
533.
it. Put it that way.
Value of the Week for episode 533. Rob's here, Andy's here, Matty's here. Steve has to get out before Mrs. Wellington starts shouting at him. So we're on time, we're on schedule here. It's 10 to 10 on the Sunday evening. We have done our best.
Yeah, she's letting you out of the house for the weekend, so I guess you should obey this time.
Absolutely, you're quite right, Matty. You're quite right indeed. A shout out to Tony Bellew as our first nomination here. He's going in, Matty. He says, people wrote this young man off and refused to believe. I didn't. All the people who slated him and tarnished his name should apologise. I'm so happy for you and proud of you. You never gave up, even in the darkest moments. Shout out to Conor Ben there, Matty.
Yeah, he never gave up lying. Yeah, big fucking company man. Yeah, fucking know he's guilty as fuck. Yeah, big fucking bushy man. Bellew, fuck off, man.
You know, like there's one thing that I really fucking hate. It's when people are treated as being heroic when they're anything but. Like, there's enough unsung heroes in this world who should be, having their name put forth for the things that they do. Fuck Conor Ben. I mean, seriously, and fuck Bellew for saying this. Like, find something fucking better to do with your lives. I mean, seriously, get a fucking life.
Conor pretended to be guilty, Andy, and he wasn't all along. He dared to be great.
He dared to be great, mate. He dared to stack on the pounds of interest. He knew what he does in terms of weight when he comes back. Is he stacked on too much? He needs to go up to the 54 now. So he needs to bypass like some Boots Ennis and Crawford and that and go straight for the big fish up at 54. I think Conor Ben will be doing that, calling out the big guys. Don't think so somehow.
Well, now that he's cleared and Boots is not getting a shot at that title, now that he's cleared the fight, let him fucking fight Boots Ennis. He was wanting it before he was banned, wasn't he? Now that and by the way, this clearance has come suspiciously 12 months after he first popped, hasn't it? Like,
apparently, it's not been confirmed publicly yet, but they're talking about it's what he's been supposedly cleared and wasn't even based on any scientific topic or anything like that. It was based on some sort of jurisdiction situation.
He's been cleared of not taking heroin, Andy. He's innocent. There was none in his system. He's completely innocent to take it. He didn't take heroin. We know that.
Meanwhile, he's sitting on a 270-page dossier that he could release, and it would prove his innocence. We're still waiting to see. So look, when he comes back, best of luck to him. I just hope his first fight's against Crawford. I'll just leave it at that.
Cindy Crawford.
It'll be his last fight.
The only fucking the only chance he have against the Crawford if he was fighting Cindy Crawford. Let me tell you, fuck's sake.
He might have a chance against a crawfish.
Well, there's one for you, Rob. Danny Young asked the question. He said, "Who was better in their prime, Terence or Cindy?" Tough one, you know.
Well, Terence would see your true colours turning blue, but it'd be your eye. You know that way.
Cindy had some prime, like she had some resume, body of work.
We Are the World and everything in there.
Who was the one in the ring with Bud last night with the blue hair? Sorry,
I think that's his sister, isn't it? That's one of his sisters.
Woohoo!
Is all that stuff coming up on the Value, Steve?
I don't think so. I've only got a limited shelf life tonight, but
okay.
I've got a Terence, a bit of a Terence appreciation there in the top right hand corner. You might have noticed throughout the pod.
Who is that?
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's Mrs. Crawford. Shout out.
That the one time this was slagging off.
Yeah.
She slimmed down?
I'm not sure. I just got the first photo I could find.
Hey, what can you say? Tie-in booth wood. So the lot
Is she bad at tie-in booth? Anyway, maybe we should move on to this. We mentioned it earlier.
That's Count Chocula now, look at. Mamma mia.
Mamma mia looks like he's coming to do magic, man. Eh?
Fucking Penn and Teller. He's in the right place anyway.
All he needs is a fucking top hat and a rabbit next to him.
Merrill, by the way, I asked him to come on the pod before because I reached out to him DM'd him on Twitter and I was like, look, we're doing this boxing podcast. Love to have you on. He was like, I definitely come on as soon as my schedule permits. And then I sent him a link to it, and then we never heard from him again. Wonder what's up with him.
I don't know.
Mamma mia.
Oh dear. Right, next one here. So Spence says, I didn't feel like even considering Thurman as an opponent. was being pushed on me. And then the Groat jumped in and she says, I'll fight Thurman at 154. So serious. All the respect in the world to him too. I just think I can outbox him. Yeah.
Would it be over 2-minute rounds?
The poster would be called Equal Lefts and Equal Rights.
I don't know. Thurman's not been very active, Andy. The Groat, she might have a chance.
He was in good shape when I saw him, man. He was in good shape.
Oh, he's ready for his 18-month trip out into the ring, is he?
Well, I think in his defense, just quickly, I mean, you look at how long they keep a lot of these PBC guys on the shelf, regardless where they're at. Like, they just don't have the dates, and guys like Keith Thurman have suffered. You'd love to say like it's his fault, but it maybe a little is, but not the bulk.
Man versus can. But no, you're right, because it was at Wilder that mentioned it, that some of the PBC fighters are getting a bit antsy, not getting fight dates. They got taxes to pay, got hussies to pay for, not getting fight dates, and no paydays.
And if I was that, I'd be like, shut up, you're all millionaires already from fighting bums. Let me do what I'm doing here. I'm trying to get some more money for you. Shut the fuck up.
That's a fair point. Oh, dear. Right, what we got here then? Ricky revealed, threw in a super chat earlier. He said IFL should just fold at this point. Cougs jumped in. And if IFL should fold, just think about how relevant you are, you crackhead. Pin that tweet. Rick reveal.
Cook's taking bodies, man, eh? Fucking hell, slacking them up. There was someone else, I forget who it was. I want to say his name's Jack. It probably isn't. He was winding Coogan up sort of awful, sending them fucking pictures and that, DMs.
Ricky shouldn't take that shit, man. Oh, fucking Coogan, by the way. Who the fuck does he think he's talking to Ricky Gravel like that? Ricky Gravel's on the fucking... Well, they've got a lot in common. They're both on the sanctions list and they can't enter the US.
Ricky Gravel's respected him about these parts. Coogan tried this push with us as well, and he put in his place. Ricky should fucking... I think Ricky told him as well. He says, I'm the 2022 Twitter champion. So that tells you all about Ricky, by the way. So leave the man alone.
It's about levels in this game, isn't it?
Fucking right it is.
It's not Ricky Gravel doesn't smoke crack. He does everything else. He doesn't smoke crack.
I know.
Like Coogan. Like Coogan, though, he sniffs the seats that the woman's been sitting on as well. You know what I'm saying?
Depends what's on the seats, I suppose.
Depends what you've been drinking, actually, as well.
Oh, dear. Nadeem Haddad put this one in. He said, me, if Anthony Joshua takes a beating like that and Derek James doesn't stop the fight.
That's fucking awesome.
One of the goat moments of all time, Andy, man.
Oh, mate, listen, I'd be signing up for sniper training, mate, so I could take him out. Just to allow the beating to continue.
They beat the shit out of that poor fella.
It was some funny one. Everyone was hitting him, man. It was like a fucking naked gun or something on it. It was like they were all just fucking taking turns hitting, running up and hitting him. Like, me and my dad were watching that live in the middle of the night. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
See if anybody who's no old enough to witness that, but were born around about 1993, witness what happened to the US soldiers that got dragged through Mogadishu. That's what happened to this poor bastard man. He got dragged out the ring into the crowd.
His wee helmet bouncing up and down like Sonic the Hedgehog, collecting rings.
and his headgear was bouncing up and down as well.
He got the shit kicked out of him.
He got the sickest
like
old man sold into sexual slavery after that. He was never seen a bad man again.
No, he was a madman, wasn't he? Didn't he do something?
He committed suicide.
He died jumping off.
He committed suicide in the end, but no, he was on Buckingham Palace and all. Apparently,
he jumped out of a plane without a parachute or something like that.
I don't know. Fucking mad bastard, man. James, something I think
it would have been funny if you went into the ring and Evander and Riddick would have lit him up.
The thing is, man,
they all of a sudden turned their attention to him.
He took a beating worse than Fulton and fucking Crawford Spence combined, man.
He dared to be great, Andy. He dared to be great.
Nadim Hamed should have extended that and done the Simpsons tribute where he fucking flies into the ring and then saves Homer from Dedrick Trading. Like he should fucking fly in and save Joshua.
I agree with you, Steve. He did dare to be great. I mean, who else can top that entrance, mate? If it nobody, I mean, fucking Prince Nassim tried to come on a flying carpet.
Go and watch that on YouTube if you're too young to have seen that. 93 it was the second fight, wasn't it? Bo versus Holyfield. Mills Lane was the referee. HBO filmed it, and the fan man, as he was affectionately known, comes with a power. And look at the back. Look at his back. He's got this big fan attached.
And if you haven't seen the Simpsons episode that references it, go watch that one too. I think that's season 6 or 7, probably, maybe 8. Fantastic episode. Homer is a boxer.
The best, and thing is, the best, if you're into your kind of like your animal documentaries, like the best description you can give here is it's like a pack of lions just waiting for something to fall, and they fucking pounce at once.
This was just standard fare for a Bridget Bow fight, though, Andy. I mean, this was
what was his name? What was his manager's name again?
Rock Newman.
Rock Newman. Oh, he'll have to throw some hands in that as well. Hey, dragging cunts at the top rope.
He was handy rock when he was in like Flynn. Like.
Oh my god,
he looked like Piper Perry, except the dicks were fists instead.
Steve, I can get inspiration for punches for the past episode here, mate.
Yes, absolutely. If we haven't done it already, I can't even remember this at this stage. To be honest, we might have done. I don't think we have. Oh dear. Anyway, moving on. Michael Thompson sent this one in. Boone County Brawl. This looks legit here. Mason Maynard against Landon Van Dyke, the Viper versus the Pitbull. Apparently, there's been an outcry, Matty, about these 9-year-olds being put in the ring in Western Virginia, I think it is. There's some people aren't happy about this kind of affair.
Is it the kids, or are they just taking pictures of the kids and Mason Menard is fighting somebody?
I don't think they're taking pictures of them. They're actually fighting.
But that kid's got the same name as the boxer Mason Menard. I just wonder if that's not.
This is the Viper Mason Menard. You know, fucking see the other top left of the poster, different fighter, isn't it?
I don't know what's going on anymore.
I thought it was Tony Edwards' fight poster when I seen it first. I said, "What the?"
Where's that? Where's WV?
West Virginia. It's not him, Matty, because Mason Menard is spelled Menard.
Yes, it is.
Coincidence.
Well,
God, it's West Virginia. I'm not surprised.
There's nothing there, mate. So they'll be fighting for like 10 cents, two boys.
Is that a mad place to be, Matty? Western Virginia?
Well, there's
have you ever seen the movie, the documentary, The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia?
No.
Steve, put it on your list. Oh my fucking God. Just put it on your list, man. It is like some of the most fucking hillbilly white trash shit you'll ever witness in your goddamn life. And it's not contrived. It's all how they fucking live, man. It's goddamn madness, dude. Fucking just like pill popping fucking psychopaths.
Great recommendation.
Who insist on they have to keep their coal mines too? Like they just are totally uninterested in everyone. Fucking build something. They're gonna go into a coal mine. They'll do just about anything.
No, we know what you mean now. We know what you mean now. Geordies. That's what you mean. They're like Geordies over there.
Now I don't know what you mean.
Newcastle people.
Oh dear me. Jake Donovan reporting this one. Terence Crawford going in at the end of the press conference. He says, "I've been telling you all for years, you're looking sad. Ellie, Sekback, you're looking like a retarded ass dude right now."
I'll get cancelled for that one, Bud, after his big moment. You won't see him again.
What did someone say afterwards? Ellie Sekback, retarded.
Anyone can get it. I've been in it. Oh dear. Michael Thompson put this one on. It's probably one for the moment, but I thought it was quite funny. Matty put it in the Nutters group. Did you shower before a fight?
Jesus.
Jim Gray. Oh dear.
I love them. Gotta love them. They do fantastic work. Never leaving anything to chance.
He's in a gad. Amir Khan rocked as new woman claims he begged her for no holds barred sex during steamy 4-month affair that ended after his wife, Farial, threatened to name and shame her. He's been up to his old tricks again, Amir. Oh dear. When will he ever learn, Andy? I don't know, to be honest with you. But he's loving life.
Aye. He was promoting himself on last night's broadcast.
Was he?
See me live on Spence Crawford on the TNT Sports. I was like, it's not about you, man. Who cares?
I didn't see it, but I heard it was a bit ropey with him and Denzel Bentley, was it? And Dempsey and.
To be fair, Denzel was fine. So was Carol. Dempsey's been there before, mate. He knows, but Amir was a bit of a struggle sometimes.
Bit of a struggle for Amir. Final few now. Gareth A. Davis, luckily he wasn't scoring the big fight, but he said, "Have this 58-55 Crawford after 6 rounds." Hashtag Spence Crawford, the guard there, Matty, getting in with some scoring. Can you concur?
I would say Spence won the first and the third, so that's about right.
Oh, you're in guard territory then?
No, Spence won the first and the third, probably.
Oh, he's been the guard's been nominated for Baby of the Week here, so we're not supposed to be agreeing with him. This is getting a bit awkward now, to be honest.
I think you're just looking for some ammo sometimes. He gives us enough. We don't have to do it when he's in there. There you go. That's better.
I think
That's
you might
what
be
we
right.
need.
Poor Gad. Also, Rob reminded me of this one. The beef backstage. Caleb Plant, the Mel and Maul's wife, ex-wife, whatever it was, were fighting outside. It was all kicking off out there, Andy. They're having a big scrap.
You know, it's actually quality about pimp hands, swap hands with him here, actually. Charlo actually took it like a bitch, done nothing. He actually walked away to begin with, and then he started to kind of walk toward him, but he was getting pulled back at the same time, like the hard man hold me back type of shit. Plans getting dragged out of the place. He's raging. No idea what the shit was about. I just found it funny, but just the fact is that Planet walked up to him and literally slapped him. Properly slapped him to fucking spit and everything's coming right out of his mouth. And the fact is he walked away and done nothing. I thought the Charlos were all about that life, mate. I thought they were H down.
I think there's something wrong with this guy, dude. Like I don't think his inactivity, and he looked like honestly a guy that was on barbiturates outside in the other footage, where he's just walking around, kind of pushes a few random security guys, but no, like he looks out of it, like he looks like he's high. But the funniest thing about this is that Derek James said the incident between Caleb Plant and Charlo happened about an hour before that. So Caleb Plant is obviously letting him bury in his mind. What happened was they were splitting up the fight, and apparently Charlo grabbed his beard or touched his face or something, like pulled at his beard. And Derek James was kind of trying to talk Caleb Plant out of reacting, but he was like, at this point he's not listening to me. And Radio Raheem was like, well, when was that? And he was like, about an hour before he went up and slapped him. So Caleb Plant's let it boil for an hour and then walked up to him, ran over it when he seen him, and like fucking check left hooked him with a slap. And Charlo's left looking fucking bemused like the guy off the tango ad. Like, it was a bit weird. It's weird seeing Charlo like that, to be honest with you. But there's a reason that the younger Charlo is fighting Canelo and not this guy. Like, I don't think everything's right there, you know, that way.
Yeah, and he loves a drink too. Same with Spence, man. A lot of these, they're always pissed, aren't they? I mean, everybody likes having a good time, but they always seem to be pissed at every show.
They're getting that PBC money, baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Steve, remember my prediction from the beginning of the year that between the Charlo brothers, there will only be one fight this year.
Yeah, absolutely. You could well be right with that, Matty. Anyway, sticking with you, Matthew, you were there the weekend. Did you see anything funny? Any Donny stories? Do you want to throw anything in for Value of the Week?
Listen, one of the funny things I saw was this guy was illegally selling T-shirts on the property of the T-Mobile outside of the doors, and he sold one last one to Donnie before the security ran up on him and told him to get the fuck out of there. And he was like walking, and like people were trying to follow him to buy shit, and he was like talking to him, and the security chick was getting rough with him, and he fucking said he'd knock her out, and she said to him, "Hey, do you think I've never been punched in the face before, motherfucker?" And yeah, that was pretty good. Enjoyed it.
Is she going to fight for a title on Chicks with D?
You get hard on Matty, you know.
She's gonna get the loser of the Shadeja Green fight on the big fight. Same night in a tag team match.
Oh, tag team boxing! Don't mention it. Good stuff, Matty. Andy, any nominations from you, please?
Yeah, just one for obviously the situation between the two Charlos' wife or ex-wives, or whatever it's called. And I don't know what the situation is, but I think they're getting dragged about the car park.
It's embarrassing, wasn't it? Really?
No, really, mate. I mean, that's what you want to see: women fighting, skirts getting put up, and you know, that's what you want to see.
Hair pieces getting pulled off and all.
The thing is, mate, the male can stand back and say, "Listen, they fucking cheat to talk about us and our behaviour," you know. So, so that was it. It was lit, baby. That's what we needed. That's what we needed to get the launch tingling for the main event happening, which was good. As I mentioned,
it was better than the fucking undercard, to be honest with you, wasn't it?
It was actually. And one for Stephen Jackson, mate. I think he's an ex-basketball player, but he been laying into wee Timmy Bradley, who, by the way, also was stoked last night. I fucking told you. He was on Twitter last night telling us all that. I told you it happened. It was like Timmy had won the fight himself, man, the way he was going on, you know what I'm saying? But Stephen Jackson, ex-basketball player, he was shitting on Bradley, saying who's he ever beat. He didn't beat Pacquiao on
that guy want to fuck off, by the way. Like,
I don't know who he is, really, but he's got some
he's
sort
a
of
baseball player or something, is he? Maddie might
basketball,
know
I think it was.
Who's that?
Oh, basketball, maybe. Stephen Edwards,
Jackson.
is it? Or Stephen Jackson.
Fuck. It's ringing a bell, but I mean, that's a very common name. You know what I mean?
Stephen with a PH.
John Smith.
I don't know for sure.
Doesn't matter anyway. One for him, one for Tim Bradley for he was flexing massively in that. need to figure out how Eddie's going to get himself into the Spence Crawford, stakes here, try and get a bit of publicity off it. One for Ben claiming that he's clear, and one for the board actually. They came out with some sort of weird statement as well. I need to go and pull it up again actually, to be fair, but yeah, one for the board possibly as well.
Okie doke, thank you, Andy. Rob, anything from you, please?
No, it was actually the best week in boxing, so there was very little value of the week action apart from the fucking shenanigans outside the ring, at the fight itself. The two boys hanging out on the boulevard with one time was worth a mention as well. That the dress, Donnie just heard the pod last week, was like, "All right, fuck that, I'm open at 1." And went to Vegas. I don't know, man.
It's like the gay blind man descends on Carnival.
It was like Thurman was dressed like Suge Knight in all red, like culottes and that, and he was even looking at Donnie like, "Fuck, man, you're after pushing the boat out a bit here, you're taking risks." And me almost missing the fucking fight only for Andy ringing me. But yeah, not much value of the week stuff for this week for me. I'm a bit Aussie this week with it.
Yep, nothing from Oz.
And Donnie was trying to give me fashion tips, by the way, guys. I know. How dare he challenge me with his primitive skills?
How dare he, indeed.
How dare he to be great.
Let's race through them very quickly then. We have Tony Bellew on Conor Benn. We have Christina Poncha and Mauro Ranallo wearing identical outfits. We have the Goat saying she'll fight Thurman. We have Rick Graville fighting against Kugan Cassius. We have the Fan Man. We have the youngsters fighting out in West Virginia. We have Jake Donovan alerting us to Crawford going in on Ellie Setback. We had Bud there pre-fight with Jim Gray. We also had Amir Khan busted again. We had the guard, or maybe not the guard. We don't know. We'll nominate him anyway for being the guard. And we had Plant and Charlo beefing backstage, plus all the ones the boys have thrown in. What are you going for this week, Andy?
Plant. I'm going to go for Plant pimp slapping Charlo like that, and in fact, he's done nothing. It was just bemusing at me because any other time Charlo would have been up in his face, all that energy, all that emotion, nothing. So I'm going to go for that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've seen the video specifically, it's also just based on the fact that somehow Caleb Plant was being hard yet still looked like a bitch. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know.
Is he getting your vote as well then, Matty?
Oh, amen, sir. Amen.
2 for Plant. Who are you going for, Rob?
Sorry, I'm going for the guys who I forgot to nominate. Your man Ray Jackson off Twitter, who's been relentlessly trolling Bud Crawford for like fucking 2 years.
Is he Stephen Jackson's brother?
I don't know.
Somebody mentioned that before. I'm starting to. I could have completely made that up. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, I don't know, but him and like Artman and all these characters like who are just fucking trolling Bud Crawford, like and fucking acting so fucking stupid on Twitter. Like, I'm looking so stupid now after what happened. Like, so all that all that action as well. Yeah, I'm going for that.
Good stuff. I was going to go for Tone for defending Conor Benn, but he's won it enough times. And anyway, the 2 votes go to the Charlo and Plant for the bit of beef backstage plus the wives. So congratulations, boys. You're the Bellew of the Week winners for episode 533. You might not be keeping active in the ring, but at least you're keeping active outside. Shout out to our Patreon subscriber who joined up this week, Ali Brightwell. I think it was either earlier on today or yesterday. We also had some super chatters, if I can bring them up as quick as I can. We had Slappy Gilmore, shout out to him. We had MTK Enforcer Rick Graville, who scored a win over Coogan this week. We had Ted Barrett as well, throwing in a few pounds. So did Captain Casual, that's Damo, shout out to him. Shout out to our American correspondent, Chase Athletics, and also to Michael McElway, Mick throwing in a tenner.
The lights stay on, Steve.
The lights shall stay on. We'll keep with the StreamYard.
Great bunch of lads.
Whatever else. Exactly. Shout out to Mick. I'll see you next Friday. He'll be at the Belfast show, no doubt, as will I. One thing I neglected to mention very quickly before we do the outro, Marcus Bellinger sent us in a message. It's always worth reading out from Marcus. He said, "Hey lads, brilliant week of boxing. Nice week of betting for myself. Crawford produced a stunning performance of power, precision, poise, and pure perfection to leave no doubt who is the king of the welterweights. The signs were ominous for Fulton after 2 or 3 rounds, with the speed differential, work rate, and the fact Inoue won the battle of the jabs conclusively. And as we've come to expect, the monster provided the finish to stamp his authority at £122. We rightly often moan about the ills of the sport. This week is worth celebrating how good boxing can be. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Marcus, and fuck the heavyweights." So I think that is as good a place to finish as any. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Brilliant stuff. Leave a like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. There might be a problem with the RSS feed this week, as I mentioned at the top of the show. If there is, I'll get it sorted out. Don't shout at me. I've been Steve Wellings. Thanks to Rapping Rob Kelly. Thanks to Matty DiGianardo. And thanks to Andy Patterson for jumping on. We'll see you all again. Same time, same place next week. Episode 534. Matty will be in the hot seat. And bye.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good at me.
Go to Adam move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing sounds, as simple as that.